8.6, where Lee Sin's even better.
And it makes sense because he has those pocket picks to try and target someone like Blank, and also Score can watch the pathing and be the pathing beast that we know him to be, but still a big story that they actually start Rush after so little on-stage experience for KT. For SKT, they once again go with what's working, but the surprise, the only one, will probably be in the support role.
Yeah.
They started Effort in the series against KSV. They need Wolf to close the series, and they will open with Wolf against recent expectation against the side of KT.
Yeah, and Wolf actually said it himself that he thinks Effort's the better player, but maybe not the better pressure player in these high, just incredibly high-pressure games that SKT now find themselves in against KT. KT coming off a fantastic win, but still, the more recent victory is in the hands of SKT and showing a mastery over the 8.6 patch as well. Let's have a look. Let's go back in time throughout the spring split.
I don't want to, Atlas. I want to stay in today because the Telecom War and a best of 5
Are you an SKT fan?
is always the dream. No, it's because I just want to watch a best of 5 between SKT and KT, and both of them took winding roads, definitely the more winding one on the side of SKT. Looking at the side of SKT, it's all about Bang, 10 KDA. They've jumped on the Bang bus a couple of times this season, and I know what I said, Atlas. We haven't started the season yet, but they've certainly needed him to get going. 37 deaths, and he's played many more than 37 games. The question is, if you put all eggs with Bang in this series, is it enough to beat KT Rolster? Your first impression in a best of 5 is a fun thing to look at. First blood rate #1 for KT and #10 in the league. It's not playoffs, in the league. 10th place for SKT. The early game has not been kind to SK Telecom T1. And with Rush in the lineup as well, you do have to say, are the stats as relevant? Because only 2 games of Rush when it comes to that first blood rate.
Yeah, and is that which direction is that going to skew it in as well? Because we've got such a tiny sample size, and Rush didn't necessarily come out of the gate swinging the first time around, because the Sejuani was his first pick, actually spent a lot of time farming on that one as well, and it took his Lee Sin a little bit of a while to kick off, despite the fact that it was a perfect game. But I think this is super relevant. The first turret statistics has always been something that we've looked at for KT, because they've been so good at just destroying objectives in the early game when they've been on form.
It's a surprising amount of parity in the bot lane, because to me, if I think of KT victories, they win bot lane, Mata roams, and they close the game from there. You could say they had the same record here on the side of SKT. The difference is that KT have had that second threat in the top lane that they could play through against some of those more robust 2v2 laners. Speaking of that threat, it is Smeb. He's against Tal, who is certainly the more mechanically talented of the 2 options that SKT had to run today. The thing with SKT is that when they run Tal, they try to heavily play to his lane. They'll try and get him Cassio. They try to get him counterpicks, Trundle, into a tank. We know that Smeb, when they're on the red side, has the same sort of ability to play both sides of the matchup. He's had plenty of young upstarts come at him and try to beat him in the 1v1, and 1v1 trying to beat Smeb is a difficult task.
Yeah, certainly is, and it depends which Smeb we're going to get as well, because, you know, one of the Smebs that we saw versus SKT, he was playing Maokai on the top side of the map, but let's move down towards the bottom side, where that Kai'Sa is really standing out for Bang, because we know Deft has been playing it a heck of a lot in solo queue.
I mean, so 3 of the biggest AD carries of all time are in Korea: Deft, Bang, and Prey. Every time they play, there's stories between the 2, and the Trash Talk segment had it pretty succinct. It usually is Deft crying. It's usually his critical mistakes in big series like this that we talk about. Think of his Jhin. Last time Jhin was in meta, face checking and dying and leading to series losses. The last time they played in a best of 5, SK Telecom reverse swept KT Rolster. The fans are always bigger for SKT, and it seems like once again they've gone for the vote.
Yeah, they certainly have. 71% is going to be the favor for SKT here in Korea. It's understandable. SKT fans are definitely aplenty, but you've got a different vote over on your side, Papa.
I did a fan vote about 4 hours ago, just closed. 3,890 global fans. A lot closer. SK Telecom 54%. KT Rolster 46%, and this does feel like a close series.
Oh yeah.
KT may be favored slightly because of what they've shown over the season, but SKT's all about peaking at the right time. This is the time to peak, to beat their old enemy, to face off against Afrika in the semifinals, and the action starts now.
Certainly does. Champion select now for game #1 of this best of 5 Telecom War series. The first ban is going to be the Rise, taken away from UCal over SKT's side, who will be starting on blue blue side. KT Rolster, in fact, getting side selection, choosing red.
And this is a really juicy series to research because there's a lot of what-ifs about Game 1 Champ Select that were unexplored. For example, do KT ban away the Zac? We know it is Blank's best pick if they are so proficient at Thresh. So do you wait for a Thresh ban, then ban Zac? Do you just straight up ban it? KT are just going to double ban the two champions that Blank has shown up on recently. Trundle and Zac are both gone. I thought maybe they leave open the Trundle and go to a rush favorite in a last pick Nidalee or something to attack it. But they're just going to try and take Blank off comfort as much as possible. And we already see an adjustment from SKT. Game 1 of their last series, first pick the Kai'Sa. They will ban it on blue side. They look like they're going to be trying to get for a Swain pick because Swain is available.
Yeah, Swain's up now, so Tal can pick that one up if he wants to. Of course, we know that he can play the mages on the top side. Faker can definitely flex it into mid. Makes a lot of sense as that first pick. But you can see a wry smile on Rush's face. They were definitely expecting something like this.
They definitely knew Swain would be first picked if they didn't ban it, so it is taken away. Tal has largely been playing the top lane mages in solo queue and on stage. Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
He also plays the Ryze. He's been visiting the Vladimir quite often as well. But Smeb can definitely go into skill mage matchups. His most famous champion to me is the Kennen that he was able to, or such tear on at 2016 Worlds. And because Trundle is gone, now the Olaf is kind of uncontested, Atlas. Consider the two picks you like into Olaf are Trundle and Sejuani for different reasons. Both of them are taken away, and now Blank has to show up on a different pick against the highest presence early game jungler in the Olaf.
Yeah, early game jungler suits Rush as well as Talia is going to be locked away for Yukal. Getting him onto comfort in the first game of this series is very, very important because it's a best of 5. The first time we've seen Yukal here in the playoffs. Make sure that he's feeling as good as possible.
And let's remind the fans that it is dynamic side selection in a best of 5 in playoffs. KT Rolster is the higher seed, had choices in Game 1, Game 3, and Game 5. So they chose red side for Game 1. To me, that's largely about counterpick for Smeb. And it's the most important thing you can get to try to force Tal to blind a powerful champion and then trust in the champion Ocean that Smeb is traditionally being able to provide from the top lane. Because SKT getting lane priority for Tal has been the core strategy when he's been in the lineup. We'll see if it is going to be the Swain or if it's going to be something else, and we're getting that confirmation real early.
Wow, the Azir going to be locked away first up, so they knew exactly what the matchup was going to be. They want to be able to take the Golden Bird into it, but it means there's no ambiguity as to where that Swain is going, and Tal definitely going to be picking that one up on the top side of the map.
So do they decide to invest in their top laner now and give SKT some compositional answers? If it's going to be a top lane mage like Vlad, you can adjust your draft in the second round, or do they hold it for last pick? Because if you follow the logic, SKT is saying, all right, you got a sick flex. We're going to show the Azir now. You know it's going to be a Swain top. And you follow that logic and say, okay, if KT lock in a top laner now, then they can counterpick for support and getting a winning 2v2 as well. But they decide to hold on to that info. They will prize an 80 carry. Notice that only Kai'Sa was banned away of 80 carries. So the Xayah is taken. They can ban 280 carries. So they don't choose to really double down on the double counterpick. Looks like SKT will get access to at least one of them.
Yeah, and you can see KT still prizing the Xayah despite the fact that the nerfs to the synergy not quite there anymore. Of course, Rakan buffs felt a little bit better than sort of outside of the duo than any changes to Xayah. So see whether he's going to be able to make it work and whether it's going to be a melee support for Mata to the tune of something like an Alistar to pair with it.
You do notice the Morgana ban. Morgana is what Mata has been practicing in solo queue. A big pick in LCS regions, but hasn't been a big pick in Korea. There's a counter to the Rakan, of course, famously, but Rakan was taken in the first round. That's why the Xayah-Rakan priority was lower. SKT are a team known to just pick Xayah and take any support with that champion, but left it open. It's gone to KT. Now with the support pool starting to constrict a bit, it seems like Thresh is the big laning support that's still available. But do you counterpick for support, or do you hold on to your top lane pick? Seems like they will be going for the support pick now, and maybe just going for more engage with the Alistar.
Yeah, I was mentioning it. Sort of would love to see Mata on more of these roaming supports. We mentioned that first tower rate being so important to unlock Mata. Whether they can still get significant turret damage in the early game with a lower range AD carry is the question, but still, a lot of fighting prowess for these two. But now bottom lane,
entire
locked in for SKT, yeah.
entire bot lane needs to be locked in. Is SKT just going to go for Caitlyn? Go for ultra safety in the lane. Caitlyn Braum is available. Haven't been impressed with SKT's Caitlyn play. You notice the Tristana hover. It'd be big if Tristana was locked in, because we've seen no Tristana since the latest Tristana nerfs. On patch 8.5, people say her laning phase is so weak that she's not able to be played in Korea. Is played around the world. We've had no Tristana play, and they're just grinning and bearing it. This is pretty big, going into Defton Mata, a fantastic 2v2 lane, and trying to get through with the Tristana. It is a risk by SKT.
Yeah, feels like almost an arrogance play, making sure that they can have that security in the late game, but not expecting KT to give them too much trouble. It is a dangerous prospect. Nah being considered now for Smeb on the top side and will be locked in. A fantastic Nah player, of course, but I would have personally liked something just to stomp onto Tal, but will certainly be safe against the Swain.
Is something that also can have synergy with the Weaver's Wall for those extra Gnar ultimates. Olaf is the big story here. They have gone for Olaf, and they have two strong lanes to back him up. Let's see how Rush can do, because Rush had a good debut in his first series. Didn't really need to do much on the Sejuani. Had a great Lee Sin performance, but he wasn't ganking 3-6. It was a lot more passive play. He was measured. KT roasted to start him. They're looking for the aggression. They're looking for him to dominate this game. And he certainly has a draft where he can potentially take it in the palm of his hands and control the early game.
Yeah, and we have to remember the last time we saw Rush, he was against Mowgli and Spirit, too. Relatively aggressive junglers. Now he's up against Blank, who is certainly the opposite of that. Has been most successful on things like the Zac that want to play it calm in the early game and then try and carry his team with good engagements towards the late stage. That's where he has been good. So a different test now for Rush.
More lane control in the top for the Gnar early, but we know that Swain will get 5 points in his queue and be just fine. In the mid lane, Taliyah versus Azir. A very nice signature matchup for both these players. Yukal known for rising in prominence on the Taliyah. Big risk here is in the bot lane. Many regions, you think of Reckless, think of EU, they're happy to run the Tristana. It's our first Tristana in a long while, and that to me is the only big risk from SK Telecom T1.
Yeah. See whether it is going to work out, though, for SKT. Ladies and gentlemen, game number 1 for playoff round 1. SKT versus KT Rolster. Let's get into it. SKT fans out in force, and it's game number 1, remember, guys. We've got a lot of people still at work trying to make it out to the Seoul East Stadium, but there are so many passionate fans wanting SKT to run this gauntlet.
Absolutely, and the crowd will be just through the chains if we go to 4 or 5 games. Which honestly seems very likely, Atlas. I'd be very surprised to see a 3-0. The 3-0 will be such a departure from their struggling regular season, where they ended up 23 wins, 23 losses, a 0-game score. For them to 3-0 here, that'd be really when the SKT fans said, hey, maybe the title is possible. They can 3-0 KT, then they can start thinking about Busan. But for today, it's all about thinking about KT.
Yeah, KT needs to be, they have to just win whatever's in front of them, think about exactly what needs to come next. And they've already done that. I just love best of 5s like this, where you feel like even in the first game, it almost doesn't matter who wins, because it's all about what we can learn and what we can adjust moving into game 2.
We're getting some very interesting learnings just as we're table setting here, because notice that both bot lanes did not leash for their junglers. There's a top play around her level 2, which with the rocket jump getting a bit of extra damage, the level 2 all-in got better from the Tristana. But the way to get the level 2 is to rush to lane first, deny a leash. KT aware of that, also rushing to lane. And notice Deft's keystone here. He's gone press the attack, not the fleet footwork. Has been very common, even after the nerf to fleet footwork. They're very much looking to punish the bot lane for going for the Tristana.
Yeah, wanting to make sure that they've got as much power early, and I like that. If you're a KT fan, you know that if KT's going to win, they're often going to come out with a lot of pressure. So a little bit of a poke in there from Yukal just to get the vision down. They know exactly where Blank is on his chickens. The blue buff is still being taken by Rush.
Very late reintroduction to the Jarvan the 4th to the LCK pool. Still big in China especially, but with so many nerfs towards Blank's jungle pool, he had to go somewhere. Yukal invading any anyway, but will not be able to get there in time to steal away any Raptors.
Yeah, Blank actually intelligently moving it into the brush, so UCal not going to be able to net himself anything. Not being able to take down the minion wave in time. Baker getting some decent poke. There's even the comment there that last auto attack was one that UCal really didn't want to take, going down to 300 health. This fight is going to land on the bottom side of the map. KT still just trying to shove, trying to keep this level and pressure advantage for as long as they possibly can. And Rush actually thinking about grabbing this Ocean Drake that is warded already. Blank can make his way in and try and take this one down, but he doesn't have a lot of health.
He's going to hit onto the blast plant, you'd imagine, but actually just wants to come in for the gank here.
Yep, Smite is now available for Rush as KT are moving themselves up. Still 2,000 health on the Dragon as Wolf takes a lot of damage. Not quite the coordination that SKT wanted. I thought that that was almost going to be first blood against Rush, but intelligently moves himself over to the side. No one's going to get the Dragon this time.
Yeah, they didn't go for the Scryer's vision. They just went straight up for the gank, thinking they'd be able to kill him at the Drake. It is very common for LCK junglers to try the very early Drake on Olaf, just because he can fall low and sustain up with his W and largely get through even an Ocean Drake, which is very punishing to take down. In the runes here, the bone plating, of course, very expected onto the Swain. They didn't go for the control play. Blanco just hit the Scryer and backed away.
Yeah.
He wanted more buffering there, actually, on the rocket jump coming through from Bang. This is the first time I'm seeing Hextech Alistair.
Yeah, I know. It's super cool.
The bot lane is really where there is to take. And let's talk about where the game goes, because the laning phase, usually in Korea, you guys, of course, at home know, is usually pretty passive. We don't see a lot of 2v2 kills. Consider that SKT in the late game have so much zone control. The Swain pick in general brings reliable laning, but it ults in a team fight and no one can walk past him because he does reliable damage and controls a lot of space. The Cataclysm controls space. The Emperor's Divide from Azir controls space, and even the soldiers can zone. And then you have a hyper carry in Tristana, who still is online 3-4 items and very powerful. So late game team fights, SKT have so much space to allow Bang to be the hard carry that he has been as recently as the series earlier in the week. On the side of KT, they have a lot of early presence, they have a lot of early roams. While KT does have some late-game team fighting, advantage SKT in that realm.
Well, UCal actually going very aggressive. Good seismic shove, but there's the flag and drag buffered by Blank. Rush still looking for it, though, as the Sand Soldier's doing a lot of damage, and the heal is going to be invested into this fight. Deft roaming up, but SKT's bottom lane are here as well. KT not going to find any joy as UCal goes down to about half health once again. And here in this laning phase.
Heals used on both sides, and then whenever you trade a summoner as SKT, you're worried about the return from Rush and the earlier power spike for these skirmishing. I think KT wins skirmishes very hard with this Olaf, as once again Bang has definitely got his eye in on the rocket jump. So both heals used from the mid laners, they back away. That was all about Blank buffering the EQ at the right time and overriding the seismic shove. If he was shoved there, he was probably dead, but able to get away.
Yeah, flag and drag, pretty damn good. As you mentioned the buffering on the bottom side of the map with Bang. Both him and Blank have pretty good ability to get out of the way of CC.
So in the early game, there's less wave clear than you remember on the Swain, because you remember level 9 Swain, we just Qs every time off cooldown and you get frustrated, but this early into the game, just being a better ranged auto attacker in the Gnar is able to get the lane control. So lane control top. The early presence jungler, it's still a game where the Predator jungler is unlocked to make the aggressive plays, but so far, nothing doing for Rush, his bot lane.
Yeah, heal's actually going to be invested into this one by Bang as well, so SKT having to invest a summon as well is going to feel great for KT.
It was double
flash as well coming out.
Having to flash away from the headbutt pulverize, so that time the aggression works on the Aftershock Alistair. All about attacking this lane, they keep it up. That's another summoner down, but how much can KT claim on the map to justify the amount of investment? And as you mentioned already, the relative lack of respect the hyper carry focus draft on SKT is taking.
Yeah. I do like what KT have put together. You mentioned the zone control that SKT is going to have in a team fight. You mentioned KT wanting to get these skirmishes happening. I feel like it really does help them out as the face check does come in from Wolf. Unbreakable's going to help him out, but Headbutt is going to move him well out of position. Blade Caller not going to be able to get the stunners. There's the Ignite going down. Remember, 8.6 does a little bit more damage, and Deft has to invest the heal to try and get out of the way. No fleet footwork is going to be available from this Zyra's teleport. Invested into the fight, and SKT going to feel great about getting a cancel from Smeb.
That was actually a really confident play from Bang. Really well calculated from him. Understood he was about to hit level 6 and would have the all-in potential with the ultimate. They draw out the teleport. Smeb will lose a minion wave for it. So even though KT with the press the attack seemed like they were set up to win, they had a summoner advantage from the start of it, because they were refusing to use any flashes, they end up trading down overall.
Yeah, thankfully they didn't have to use those flashes. Featherstorm and Flash available for def. Now, UCal going to be able to pick up his blue buff, and I feel like this is the time where KT want to be setting themselves up for fights, and having those flashes off cooldown feels really, really good if you are KT, which is why they invested the teleport instead of either of the bottom lane's flashes.
Speaking of flashes, Marta, on a roam to the mid lane, but will be spotted on a control ward. In that control vision bot size, what we always say is the gold standard with a global mid lane champion. Think of Talia or Galio.
Yeah.
So you can go for those roams uncontested as Tal finally starts weaving in the spells, and we see that very annoying Swain passive that is always the most central thing about his kit.
Yep. Throwing that Sith Lightning across the minion wave as well, like you were mentioning before, is able to start getting the shove towards his top side. Smeb is going to be able to grab that Meganar, clear things out. He still has about a wave ahead of Tal, especially after he picks up these next few minions that are left over. Rush going for a lane gank. You can see some honey fruit is being chowed down on by Tal as he moves up the river.
Big problem I see here for KT Rolster compared to where SKT is that the vision control for SKT is a level above. Control ward on the red buff only now going to be spotted. They have more control wards on the map in general, whereas KT Rolster are relatively blind. They don't have the aggressive vision that Score is known for. Marta hasn't been able to go on the same vision wars because, of course, only has the few wards from his trinket rather than early Sightstone that he was known for. So for now, it feels like SKT have been able to find safety through warding and also taking pretty smart trades in laning phase. So the Tristana that we mentioned could and should be punished with a draft like this from KT, for now is getting through pretty unscathed.
Well, Faker's going to invest the E in order to get himself out of there, shift some sands to get towards his Raptor camp, and UCal's going to be able to take down this control ward. Now that vision that you were talking about earlier is certainly there as Deft. He's going to get closed on. Bang, not going to take any damage from that root caller there at all. Headbutt Pulve comes in, but Bang's going to be able to get himself out, and there is a blank waiting in the wings.
It's so awesome watching the 2v2 trades, knowing that both teams have people ready to react. We can see the Talia in position for the Weaver's Wall. We see Blank, they're closer for the gank, but both of them know that there's incomplete information. And that's why, for now, things are pretty quiet. As KT on the roam again.
Yeah, once again, the Flag and Drag's going to be invested. Blank gets himself into a different position as Wolf gets himself out. Has to use the flash, though, as now Rush can't stay in here. UCal immediately takes down the wall, and they want to find Bang. Rocket Jump going to be used. We knew that he could get out if he wanted to, despite not having the flash.
It's all about losing the minimum for SKT. We talk about this very often in Korean games where the enemy team knows they've picked the scaling comp, knows they have the late game going. So how much is the minimum? How much can you sacrifice mid lane?
Oh, good flash gets UCal out of the way, and Seismic Shove moves Faker back in. Rush is going to get down here as Wolf has to teleport in the flash in, but it's not enough from Rush. Does get the flash out of Faker, though.
Damage calculation a little bit off there. Aren't able to pick up the first blood. Blank still in the bot lane. KT know this is their time to turn on. If SKT keep answering them and getting global gold into the game, if it reads 45,000, 45,000, 50,000, 50,000, there's 100,000 gold in the game, then SKT's comp is going to be ready to roll.
Yeah, feels absolutely fantastic, but getting the flash trade onto Faker, you have to think that Rush is going to be okay with it, because then gets himself an undertow, and he's going to be feeling great. There's the Nara into the wall. Tal has to actually use the flash to get out of the way very early, as Demonic Ascension also invested into this fight. Now Smeb feeling much better in this matchup.
Rush hits 2 lanes within 30 seconds. The flashes are down. Again, KT Rolster will have control on those lanes, but what it means is always undefined. Can KT actually find an objective? They would love to crash the bot lane turret, start roaming with the Alistair. May not be Thresh, but it has the same impact when it can hit the map. But for now, turret HP hasn't been able to fall low enough. They haven't been denying CS. Tristana's actually up in CS because they've been pushing. But from the pushing, they haven't stolen away buffs. They haven't killed turrets. When those turrets start to roll down, that's when KT really reach the ascendancy. But for now, it's about what's there for KT, but not what's been claimed by KT.
Now Faker is actually pushing in the mid lane. Rush will be able to grab this red buff and potentially move over there if he wants to, unless these camps need to be cleared out. Completely even, though, is the jungle camp numbers. Blank also on the prowl around that mid lane, mirroring each other on either side of the map. As Rush gets himself over there, it might be the dragon that both of these teams are looking for, as Rush is going to be harassed out with some sand soldiers.
Disregard it as Yukal pushes in the wave and stops Faker from just free autoing his jungler.
Another headbutt pole comes in from Mata, looking for some stuns now. There is the rocket jump, gets Bang out of the way, actually nullifies the stun from Mata towards the end as Blank just going to cop one auto attack.
Yeah, it was a Predator auto.
Boosting it in there. Yep.
Predator was popped, so that's a cooldown that's now down. KT trying to get control. They have a lot of control in the mid lane, walking up to Faker.
Yeah, remember, no flashes. Yukal does take a turret shot, but very even on the health bars, and Faker didn't want to do it. Oh, Ragnarok was invested as well, but Rush couldn't find the undertow. Oh, Faker just limping away multiple times now this series.
Try to use it like a Righteous Glory to get that extra movement speed, but not enough, not close enough to get the value there. Unable to pick up the kill, and now the Drake would be a bit more of a risk if it was started, because Olaf still has his ult and his flash on cooldown. KT rolls to all they have for their relative strength in the draft in the early to mid game is a 500 gold lead. Won't be good enough for their calculations as ult is available for Swain. Probably gonna have to pop it.
Another Nara into the wall as the Demonic Ascension, like you say, comes out once again. Smev just trying to make sure the pressure is on to Tal, meaning that if Rush is actually in the area, if a dive is possible, they'll go for it. Remember, half the cooldown on that flash still there. A lot of respect now going to have to come out from the new top lane of SKT.
In the early game, such a long cooldown on that Demonic Ascension at level 1 that if you can force it out as Smap, you feel so happy because you win the trades pretty hard in mini Nara form. Just continues to push, continues to get pressure. A lot of standing gold on this map for KT to pick up. That's not going to really be felt in the 80 carry items. Bang keeps up his good form. He's up 10 CS in the lane. Working on his first item here is SKT against the run of play, looking to sneak a Drake.
Yeah, Mata actually pokes his head in. Blank's going to have to flag and drag his way out. Doesn't want to take too much damage from that one. With only a Cinderhulk, can't really sit there and take the abuse that the Ocean Drake can bring out. Smev continues to hard shove this way. We'll see whether Tal's going to use the teleport, and he does. So not going to be able to get himself around, and KT with teleport advantage feels like a scary thing to deal with here in this game. As Vision of Empire not going to find the target at all. Not even going to be able to get the force pull.
This game one is such a big test for Tal in particular. He didn't get the counter pick. He didn't get a blind pick that basically cannot be answered by a conventional top laner in the Cassio, where, well, you can take a less bad matchup, but it's still Cassio top. You're going to lose the 1v1s. Gnar is a very comfortable pick. Smeb is a much more experienced top laner. If Tal can get through this game unscathed, that is a really big vote of confidence because he's definitely going to be tested again and again in this best of 5.
Yeah. Smith actually losing out on that trade quite heavily. So he doesn't quite have the items that Tal has picked up. Goes back, gets a book and a stick, and he's going to be feeling pretty good. See whether that's going to be Void Staff item number 2. Can't help but expect something like that, but I don't know whether it's necessarily what Tal's going to be building.
Almost certainly going to be Leandri's, I would imagine.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
As here's the Weaver's Wall.
Yeah, the Flash Gnar actually into the wall as well, as there's so much CC. The Pebbles come out, and Yukal is going to help grab first blood for Smeb.
Awkwardly, Rush was there with a front row seat, but couldn't get over because there was a Weaver's Wall in the way. That because he was topside, SKT will find an objective on the bottom side, or will they? We're seeing the recall from the Gnar. He's not actually sticking. He wants to get a shop in. Going for the teleport early. They want to fight this KT.
Yeah, KT going to get in there. The Smite does come out from Blank, but is he going to fall down here? The hop gets Smeb over, and now he's going to have the Hyper Prox, picks it up. Cataclysm just going to keep the Gnar in a cage, but he doesn't mind. He kills the Jarvan, and that's the second kill for KT, right on time for when their composition's going to go off.
And they're not trying to prefer the top lane turret that seemed free. They really want this bot lane turret to try to snowball the game. That's why Smeb teleported in after the Drake would already be dead. KT rolls to unlocking the Alistair to roam. It's so important for their mid game, and it should happen here.
Yep, 4 members on the bottom side. Yukal is going to head back home. Doesn't have the Weaver's Wall to close distance. He's actually going to hop over. There are a lot of pings onto Yukal. Got wards surrounding him as well. But there is the first turret going down, like you say, on the bottom side of the map, and we're close to a 3,000 gold lead for KT Rolster in the early game.
We already mentioned that first turret win rate is going to be right up there for the best teams, and KT and Kingzone, of course, are 1 and 2. It's all about bot lane turret when you have a Thresh or an Alistar who can hit the map, and also will get them the deep vision. They weren't able to get Atlas because they were able to have very shallow vision with all the turrets being up for the first 17 minutes. Not many teams in the LCK would sack the top lane turret that seemed free to push down and risk a teleport behind the Drake. But with teleport advantage, that's the choice KT made, and it gets them the bot lane turret and the potential to roam around and speed up this game before the Tristana is truly online.
Yeah, it just shows that Smeb pretty happy to be in the laning phase against Tal here as well. Not really feeling too much pressure as Mata going to move the minion wave away so that Def can pick up as many of these as possible. Has himself the Zeal and the Essence Reaver, so feeling like he's in a good spot here in the early game. But Bang as well, BF Sword, close to the Static Shiv or the Rapid Fire Cannon, depending on what he wants to pick up first. Based on the changes to both of those items, I have a feeling the Shiv is still going to be coming in though.
And now it's largely about, we have Predator Jungler, we have the Weaver's Wall, and Moby Boots Alistar's hitting the Rift, no longer stuck in a 2v2. How can KT keep the pace of the game higher? Because while Tristana's got good items, she really now needs 3.5 items, 3 items minimum to be even in any way relevant. Before, at 3 items, she was basically a god. Now, before 3 items, she's super weak with the lower range as well to cascade everything. So there's the Weaver's Wall we mentioned. It's going to be shorted.
Yep. Unbreakable's going to be there from Wolf as KT actually setting themselves up, but going to be spotted.
All they care about is the turret, so the fact they can't get a turret dive is just fine.
Yep. You can see Vision of Empire not exactly great clearing out the waves, even though Tal can do it from a very long way away. And that's going to be the second outer turret taken for KT. The money snowball is still there. 3.5 thousand gold. We have to remember to caveat it though. We've spoken about KT's prowess in the late game. 3,500 gold doesn't mean the job is done for KT. They need to keep this pressure rolling.
It's definitely not. It's not a mid lane karma draft like KSV, but it's just outclassed by what SKT have in the late game. And KT got the invite. The moment they saw Tristana, they understood that this was a game where you doubled down around the mid game. If you get the first Baron, it may not be the full power Barons, but there still is a lot of ability to close with early Baron buffs. Baron hits the Rift in 5 seconds. SKT are still waiting for items. They want a second item onto Tal. They want a Zhonya's onto Tal as well to be able to control space. So for now, KT trade up. Like how they're playing, but every time they're halted, every time the game stays at this pace, it's good stuff for SKT.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the Baron here as well, because I feel like with all Xayah comps, you have to talk about sieging and possibilities there, because she doesn't have the highest range. So getting in those siege scenarios really does require you to have these powered up siege minions to try and get down these turrets.
And remember, double AP on the side of SKT, as the Swain is an AP champion, even if he's an off tank. He's going to have a lot of trouble dealing with the Baroned up minions. The Banon minion, if that does come in, I imagine that will be the finish here for Mata quite early, is another thing that SKT don't answer very well. You could tell from his recent champion pool and in solo queue, Tal has almost exclusively been playing mages, apart from the Gangplank that he also does visit situationally. So Banner of Command value was always likely to be high against SKT.
Yeah. Well, Def goes back, does have himself his Ninja Tabi, his KT. Feeling okay about clearing out some vision pretty deep. They need to keep this up, try and suffocate SKT. Faker grabs himself a blue buff. Now, a bit of damage actually is Def possibly caught out of position. Featherstorm is going to be invested, but huge Pulverize comes in from Mata. Going to be answered here by Wolf, but Mata should be outside of positioning, not going to be able to get out of this one as Tal. The Demonic Ascension's going to be available. So much damage from the Swain, and he picks up the kill onto Rush. The kills are now equalized, and SKT just move up the mid lane. Yukao may actually fall down as Blank so aggressive with the rocket jump. Deft still getting some damage in there. Double heals come out from KT, and that's going to be a dead Yukao. SKT turning it on post 21 minutes.
KT thought it was 2 skirmishes, but it ended up just being a failed attempt at a team fight. SKT didn't have to use much, and Faker keeps up everything, including the Emperor's Divide, and they should get a free Baron.
Yeah, Faker at full health means that he can try and stave off KT over here. Just not a chance for them to get in. It's going to be smoked by Blank. And the first Baron, we were talking about it being important for KT, it now just gets gifted to SKT as Faker. So much damage. Smeb has to hop away. Deft has to limp away from this fight, and it might be the delayed ace to come in from SKT. There it is! The Birdman himself picks up the kill onto the Xayah. Smeb, 1 auto attack away from dead as he gets the Mega Gnar, gnars them all away, and he's buying some time. Has a Blast Cone to get himself over, and now the teleport to come in. Is he going to get out? Oh, Oh, Smeb. Oh, there it is. Oh, what?
The auto attack followed him the whole way. Ends up being comical stuff,
yeah,
but it ends up being
auto.
5 kills eventually. Atlas and the Baron to the side of SKT. KT Rolster, the setup on that pinch was not good enough. First 5 kills, first Baron, and now first gold lead for SKT.
Yeah, the headbutt pole felt good from Martin. We are going to see it again. KT just over-indexing in depth. Out of position in this fight to start it off.
So consider, Smeb is not in Meganar. The teleport is behind, and Talia gets there too late. Isn't able to hit the fight. Neither is Azir. But Tal's in the backline. He gets a free invitation as the Swain to get value. Rush dies to the Demon Flare. They get the Baron. Turn on the Baron buff, and suddenly the structures start to roll down, but this time it's for SKT.
Yeah, now 1,000 gold in the lead against the run of play here for SKT, and it's only going to get bigger as this power play moves on forward. Want to try and grab this outer turret, and they will be able to do so very, very easily. In fact, KT not wanting to try and go for anything. The side lane now actually being occupied by Yukao on the top side. Trying to push Tal in, not wanting to give them too much, but already grabbing 2 outer turrets in very quick succession. And close to 2 minutes of Baron still remains for SKT.
Vision control from SKT has been better than KT's in this game. We talked about how they had great offensive and defensive vision in the first 20 minutes. That lane ward to facilitate the teleport for Tal was the true MVP. Tal had been slowly being chipped away by Smeb in the laning phase the entire time. Went down for an early kill, but getting access to the back line was something that KT hadn't factored in. Meant that they were exposed. And now SKT are up in turrets against a team that drafted for the early lead.
Well, Weaver's Law comes in from Yukao. He's just going to try and lock Tal in here. He doesn't have flash, remember. As Rush is just going to run on over, and they're going to be able to pick up that kill relatively easily. SKT were trying to rotate over, but the fact that they have done that means they weren't in position to capitalize from 2 members being top. Morellonomicon
being complete means there is kill pressure onto the Swain, but SKT, they've got their power in the mid game, and now they're trying to find Smeb as well.
Yep, Faker is actually going to be able to find the blue buff as Smeb just takes way too much damage. Bang's going to pick up the kill, and SKT, they're just rolling forward now.
SKT are just taking the script and ripping it up into little pieces. Say, Zeke's Convergence Braum in this game. So the first Zeke's Convergence isn't for the Xayah, it's for the Tristana to cheat the damage curve a little bit. Turned on in that particular engage. Didn't even need it there. One able to proc, didn't even need the Braum ultimate, but Bang does more damage earlier than you would have expected. This Tristana is warping the draft priority from KT in a couple of different ways. 4 turrets taken down in 1 Baron buff power play.
Yeah, and Faker is just a man possessed this game as well. He's been absorbing pressure across the map, and then in the last fight looked brilliant. Then chases down 2 kills. There does most of the damage to lock down the kill onto Smeb, and also steals away the blue buff. Everything seems to be going that man's way, as we are going to have a look at this one again as the rocket jump comes through.
Watch the order. This is the order that follows him, so it looks like he's going to survive. Doesn't actually interact with the charge that was on him. So the satchel charge that was on him, the explosive charge, didn't get buffed by that auto, but the auto following killed him. So the longest range Tristana auto. They say that the Tristana nerf was ranged. I have a counterpoint.
Yeah, I certainly do. I didn't know that it was sort of like it had a dead range, you know? It can either shoot relatively close to you or the other side of the map. I believe that was the unwritten adaptation. This rapid fire cannon has been completed, speaking of Tristana, and the Vampiric Scepter, so not opting in for any sort of armor penetration here against the draft of KT. It is going to be Bloodthirster potentially for item number 4 for Bang.
And now it's everything we evaluated about the game where KT needed to play is out of the window. Because SKT have a gold lead. They also have a front line. They have a vision lead, so they can actually reliably get Swain into the back line. And a couple of minutes ago, he was so far away from his second item, the Leandris, let alone the zone, is now he has both. And the amount of space this affords Bang to just free auto is something that KT just haven't got a comp that can answer.
Yeah, and they're actually just trying to set themselves up to get picks onto single members. And I think it's intelligent from KT, but they just don't have very many other options apart from that. And SKT, reading them like a book, are always ready to collapse. Even Tal on the bottom side has that teleport. He can get in towards the back line. Try and use that Demonic Ascension to get everyone out of the way. We saw how effective it was in that first team fight win for SKT. They're holding all of the cards. Now it's working out which order to play them. Close out this game for SKT. Oh, Def taking so much damage from Bang, who's just standing outside of turret range.
Kind of by accident, because Bang is much more about the siege than he is about the poke, but he'll take both if he can get it. Waits for the next auto. He's just basically backing off and walking up every time he gets access to his rapid-fire cannon.
Yep.
He's just chilling.
Not scared at all. As the rest of his team hanging around, was just trying to be juicy bait, but he'll take the turret if it's there in front of him, and now 6,000 gold is going to be the approximate lead for SKT. Turned this game on a dime. 15 minutes in, it was KT looking like they were ready to start rolling over. And then SKT turn it on, find the team fight they're looking for, get the Baron, and they're not letting up. Such a pleasure to see Bang's return to form this year. So many people were there saying his time is up after the famous loss.
Yeah.
And in general, his struggles at the 2017 World Championships. Now, if you told me in 2018, what about a meta where it's all about the AD carry only, like the meta at Worlds 2017 turned out to be, this Bang is the one that's ready to go in that scenario. It's a little bit later, but if it's enough to take SKT over KT and continue their gauntlet run, SKT fans are ready to forgive and forget because Bang is in tip-top form. And he's on the Tristana pick here as well as Smeb. Just waiting. Okay. Secret Agent Nah hanging out in this brush. I wonder whether he's still there. He's going to get face-checked his Bang. There's a lot of damage is actually going to be offered back, and Smeb actually regrets this decision close to the Naba. So the Boomerang's going to slow Bang down. 4 control wards in the top side. One of them actually spotted out Yukal. So while he was, of course, jump scared by there being a Gnar there, he was happy to turn on because there was no way for Yukal to get involved. He knew it was going to be outnumbered. SKT, they just shrugged that one off and just add a Cloud Drake to their bounty of neutrals this game. Yeah, they're going to be able to grab all of the dragons this game. It's only 3 because our first Drake was a little bit late. Remember Bang picking that one up with the Smite fight, and then the Infernal was free. So all too easy for SKT, who have eliminated the outer ring of turrets as well. KT, they just don't have a lot of map that belongs to them, and this Baron a long way away from control. It's just going to go down so incredibly fast. Tristana and Azir that are this fed at this stage of the game just destroy it. And that calculation on the timing was way too late for Yukal. I mean, the fact that the Weaver's Wall was there 2 seconds after the Baron died let you know that KT had no idea exactly how much power the Azir and Tristana were packing. Able to walk up and basically delete it. Looked in this general direction, it wilted. Baron just waved the white flag. And yeah, I think it's not long till KT Rolster will have to wave the white flag for game number 1. They had this tempo draft about always staying in front of the scaling draft from SKT. Scaling draft came online early. Never able to get going, and now they interrupt the back from Deft, who's backing on a ward, and that means that Bang's going to kill this turret instantly. Yeah, it is so dead. That turret goes down in a blink of an eye. The inhibitor should follow as well as Yukal, trying to deter them, and actually does so, but Bang decides he's going to turn around and crit Yukal's face off. That means third auto, he would have died. Yeah, just ludicrous. It's Bang now moving himself over. 5 members collapse onto the mid lane with this Baron buff, with the Siege minion, with the minion wave just withering at the sight of SKT. There's the pullback, actually gets the Featherstorm out of Deft, and he's down to half health. Feels like 1.5 auto attacks there from Bang will take him down, and that means also the inhibitor turret falls. A lot of damage onto Smeb, who has to get the crush to get his way out. No frontliners here, and Alistair, Anar, and Olaf, none of them can go anywhere near auto attack range for Tristana, and she's at level 17, so we know that's pretty damn far. They walk up, game should end here. I don't think KT have any Hail Marys left, and SKT, maybe they'll just play with their food a little bit more and buy some sweet items. Yeah, Bang had about 1 billion gold, I think, sitting in his back pocket, so he's going to go back, finish off his Bloodthirster, and we'll see what else he can actually pick up there as well. The Executioner's Calling going to come in to build towards that Mortal Reminder, so yeah, that's it's a lot more damage now available for Bang, and not a lot of healing available for KT as well. Scary thing about this game is, if I think about it, based on expectation, based on the prep I had going into this series, KT kind of got what they wanted. They had the better 2v2. Yeah. When you're able to field Xayah and Alistair, we see our first Tristana post-nerf in the LCK. It was all centered around making a laning phase weaker. They also had a preferential top lane matchup. They picked the Gnar into the Swain. Those were the sort of things that KT needed to beat SKT in my estimation, but none of them have been able to be fielded. One mistake around a skirmish, and everything has been rewritten for SKT, and
All the early game for KT meant nothing.
Yeah, well, Vision of Empire is going to come down, spots out KT, who just all get trapped in the Cataclysm. That is massive as Tull gets the flash in over the top. Bang! Just solos out depth off to the side as the Empress Divide doesn't do that much, but does get the picks, and bang, he just wants more kills. Doesn't have the flash available, otherwise you know that he'd be jumping on top of KT, and now game one should be in the hands of SKT. Against what felt like the run of play, they're going to continue their gauntlet run in style in game one.
SKT looking like the sleeping giants they will always be as an organization. They finally settled on a lineup, and in this game they were able to answer a lot of the preparation that teams would have flagged when it came to SKT's weaknesses, and even played into KT's strengths. But they turned the game on 1-1 team fight around 22 minutes, got the Baron, and never looked like losing from there.
Yeah, and I think the real question mark here is in that jungle role. Blank wasn't harassed at all by Rush in the early game. I felt like the Jarvan play was fantastic as far as reacting to where Rush was on the map. And it's not a lot of times that we get the opportunity to praise what Blank can do for his team, but this is certainly one of those occasions.
Really interesting. And what does that mean for whether Rush or Score will be playing in game number 2? We're not aware of who's at the studio. Pawn could still potentially be subbed in here, but KT Rolster, the coach will say that the draft was good, and the draft was good, but your decision making needs to be on point if you're willing to surrender so many team fighting choices, if you're willing to allow Bang to get through lane on the Tristana and not deny CS, play for the objectives rather than the denial. In the end, they denied themselves a chance to get back into the game, because definitely when SKT got over the hump by picking up those kills, it felt like they were completely set up to close game one.
Yeah, it was that one team fight that really felt like there was nothing KT could do to get themselves back in. We have to remember the early game at about 15 minutes in did look good for KT. There are only so many things you can do when it's a SKT that's biding their time, getting themselves to the opportune moment, and then they capitalized on it pretty much immediately. So much learnings to take from this one. Game number 2 is going to be coming up just around the corner. Still, 2 more games for SKT to win, 3 for KT, and a short break before we come back for the second one. Welcome back, OGN Legion, to the LCK Spring Playoffs. Game number 1, SKT found a team fight with a flanking ward, and they won the game.
And if you're going to put all your eggs somewhere, the bang basket seems pretty good, Atlas.
Bang basket is definitely a better analogy, Pop Smithy.
Hey, we're just going through all of them. If he keeps having performance like this, we need to find new ways to describe.
The bang bushel?
That's a bit too Aussie for us, but Bang was on to his old tricks and on the Tristana, bringing back a hyper carry, getting through the laning phase because KT were prioritizing the push, prioritizing getting those mid-game turrets, and then turning the game on its head with one big TP play and shut down the KT rotations. Felt like Rush coming in, banning 3 junglers and getting the Olaf for the big lead. It didn't translate into a vision advantage or enough mid-game control. Then SKT were able to very easily close after their 22-minute Baron. The MVP, will it be Bang once again? It will be 4-0-4, 90% kill participation. Welcome to the playoffs, Bang. You're looking pretty good.
Damn right he is. People saying that he's a KDA player, certainly not the case. This guy was rocket jumping forward in the later stages of the game every single time. And here is that pivotal fight that we were talking about to start things off.
And all that Talia is able to do is deny Azir from the fight, which is still something. Unfortunately, Tal, who had no fun in the laning phase, got free access into the backline. I felt like SKT's vision control was significantly better than what KT were able to put together, and KT's vision control is one of their best points as a team traditionally. But traditionally, we're talking about score in the lineup and not Rush. Don't think that KT got enough out of Rush in the team or the Olaf pick. Then, from this point onwards, it just felt like SKT were playing with their food as Bang was doing incredible damage.
Yeah, just rocket jumping over a wall underneath the turret, and now 3 hitting
one auto,
death.
One auto, second auto, and an ult. And he's dead.
I don't even know whether the ultimate damage registered because he did so much of it.
It was either 2 autos or 2 autos and an ult. Both of them pretty dirty, Atlas.
Yeah, really dirty. Gonna have a look at Bang there on your screen. Just another day in the office for him, but you can hear the music. It is going to be a sub. I feel like the kind boy might be taking some time on the bench as Score, oldest player in the league, the man wanting to come back, see whether he can use the learnings from game 1 to get around the jungle in game number 2.
That is really what Rush being blooded on the scene means. What him playing in playoffs means to me is that you can follow the old logic that SKT wielded for a lot of summer season last year, and in general, a lot of 2017. Start with the aggressive jungler, sub in the pathing jungler who has now 1 game of map hacks on the Jarvan. Will it have to be a Jarvan takeaway here? Will the Jarvan now no longer be the pick? Blank can be very conniving. He can be very cunning. He is a smart player. By the time SKT picked up that Team 5 victory, wasn't really much he could do.
Yeah, and you guys might be thinking back to that Trash Talk video that we opened up with here for this series because everyone was talking about Blank being a momentum player. The consistency isn't always there, but when he's on form, he is on form. And if game 1 is a sign that things are going to...
We're going to have a sick best of 5.
Damn. Right, we are.
SKT winning 3-0 was probably the least likely result from their play this year. From history, of course, a very famous result for SKT. But from this year, SKT's consistency with all the different rosters they've run was the one thing you weren't expecting. Maybe it's going to smash us right in the face, as that was a very impressive game number 1. And now KT's adaptation in the pick and ban is going to be so fun to see.
Yeah, will it once again just be targeting Blank, as we are not going to have any side switches. It's going to be blue side once again for SKT as we head into Champion Select.
And to remind you guys, dynamic side selection, SKT have their choice in game 2 and game 4. That means they choose blue side. I was a bit surprised when we came to the arena that KT had chosen red because blue side priority and the ability to get Swain at first pick is the reason a lot of teams around the world looked for that first pick on blue side. So far, bans remain the same. I don't think you ban 3 junglers if you're KT because Rush needs the aggression. He's an aggressive jungler. It made sense to deny good picks into Olaf and then take the Olaf. But will KT try to roll it back, even with a very different jungler? Whoa. Interestingly, they do.
They absolutely are. And remember, Score did win back-to-back games against SKT on that Olaf last time these two teams faced, so thinking that if they do it again, he might be able to have that early game pathing that he's looking for. Azir going to be locked in this time. That's going to be the adaptation. as Score thinking about finding that Olaf for that second pick and is going to be the way. So once again, giving away the Swain, but now the Birdman goes to Yuko.
And look, it wasn't about Blank's Jarvan in game number 1. He was very capable, but he wasn't playmaking. It was largely about defensive coverage because they had fairly weak lanes that needed defensive play. They're going to roll it back. It will be the same jungle matchup 2 games in a row, you would imagine, when they lock in this Jarvan for Blank. And that means the Score is ready to go on the same matchup. I saw you wise-eyed a little bit there.
I didn't say anything, though. As Aatrox going to be considered and the Korean fans having a bit of a chuckle about the fact that he has been hovered.
Now, running 2 games of Jarvan, even with the enemy jungler watching your Jarvan game, is actually one of the most flexible things you can do, Atlas, because Jarvan is creative. He can take any camp, he can gank at level 2. Your path in the jungle as Jarvan is not predictable. So of all champions to know that your enemy saw your route on, I'd actually prefer the Jarvan because of his flexibility.
Well, Camille now going to be considered here, and that would be the whole top side of the map picked up for KT. That is going to be the lock-in, avoiding that second round of bans. Means the bottom lane still yet to be locked in here for KT, and they just don't care about getting that counter pick.
It does seem like SKT. You know, you're first expecting to be a mid lane Karma, and once again rolling out the hyper carry come through for Bang, but it could be a support Karma, an old favorite of Wolf. So it is a flex pick, but your first thought when you see the draft largely rolled back is, hey, finding zones of control for Bang to pop off seemed pretty good in game number 1. Why not do it again? You're seeing the Ezreal band away, pricing SKT further into a hyper carry, 80 carry, and see how KT close out the map. They don't take a support in the first round, so it's going to be entire bot lanes constructed in the second round of the draft.
Yeah, remember it was Morgana and Camille banned away from SKT in the second round last time. The identical bans in the first round means that there is going to be a change. We'll see whether Morgana is going to be taken, given the fact that Camille was actually banned second round last time. So Ezreal, Tahm Kench, once again, Ezreal, Tahm Kench.
The problem for KT is they don't ban Xayah. It feels like you have to take Xayah from Bang because Bang plays Xayah without Rakan. Banning Rakan does not stop SKT from locking in Xayah, but it seems like they're going to accept the fact that Bang will most likely go for Xayah as a stronger laning phase than Tristana and just accept it for KT. I wonder what that means for Deft's pick, as it is a big sacrifice. Deft's Xayah has been decent. He's 2-4, so the win rate is not there. Bang's Xayah has been amazing.
It has. It's been absolutely extraordinary, but now we've got Olaf and Braum. So bottom side ganks, certainly something that can work out here for SKT, and maybe they want to have a rocket jump once again down on that bottom side for the disengage possibilities. They're at least going to hover the Tristana for a little bit, but the gangplank is going to be locked in, and looks like that is going to be support Karma. I got very confused for a second there. I was like, where is the pirate going? And it looks like Wolf is going to be picking up his Karma that he used to favor very highly, but it was a while ago.
So more zone control with the cannon barrage, and they seem to be really heavily considering rolling back Tristana. This would be a blind pick Tristana. This is a new thing for the LCK. Again, does happen around the world, but probably not something that KT was anticipating coming into this series. The high Tristana priority coming from SKT kind of reminds you of other teams who've had to ban Tristana against opponents. You think of Vitality in the EULCS, teams against Liquid. Sometimes it's, all right,
wow,
we're going super early game on the side of KT. We're going back to the Kalista, and they're trying to punish in the 2v2. 2 nerfed 80 carries, but Kalista's sieging is basically gone in the late game. It's now about playmaking. It's now about Mata having access to the ultimate there to make the plays from the Kalista.
And the Glacial Fissure, everything feels good for KT moving towards that Baron.
But with this sort of a comp, you're kind of packing up after 25 minutes if you lose the team fight. So, okay, guys, we tried, we lost.
It's like, you can't. Well, yeah, you can have a go if you want to, but otherwise, we're out. It's done.
This game is all about the first Baron for KT rolls. If they claim it pre-30 minutes, then you can vindicate the draft. If you lose the Baron, it is a decimation for KT. SK Telecom T1, they roll back Tristana. It feels like the 80 carry matchups are as far away from as prep as possible. Where's the Caitlyn? Where's the Kai'Sa? Where's the Jhin? They're all gone.
Yeah, where's the Jinx as well? I mean, Deft's been playing it a little bit in the solo queues. That's, of course, always what I want to see, but damn, it's still a spicy draft. And whenever you see Kalista locked in. It has nothing to do with Def's Kalista. It has everything to do with Manta saying, just get on the Kalista, give me another button I can press.
Another game where you look at KT's draft and say, those lanes are pretty strong. The Olaf is set up to do things. Rush wasn't able to actually get down the vision or make the plays matter when he needed to in game number 1. Let's see if the wily veteran can do it in game number 2 with Score coming in.
Yeah, the top side of the map is going to remain the same for SKT, as well as that Tristana that was so good. MVP performance from Bang. Game number 2, guys, coming up right now. Let's get on to Summoner's Rift for this playoff match. KT fans crying in unison. SKT just so many in the Solis Stadium, which has filled out now. If you guys were wondering back at home, everyone turning up for game number 2. As SKT looking to put another nail in the coffin of KT, and KT trying to bring us to a best of 3 for the remainder of this series.
All the fans, so excited to see it. Look, you can always plug it in. Every season, doesn't matter where they are on the ladder, people will come and watch the Telecom War. It's a name that goes around the world. Every League of Legends fan who watches competitive esports knows the Telecom War. And best of 5 is something that we're always so excited to see. The adaptations for KT from game 1 to game 2 are subbing in a new jungler in Score, but largely keeping it the same. They are going very much trying to double down the 2v2. They're going for a late invade here, but I believe they were spotted out.
They were, and they actually saw the ward die there as well, so they know that they were seen.
Okay. They don't know Blank is here. He shows himself now.
Yep, ward is going to be down
there. Are we going to have a
Smite
War?
That's what we're looking for as Tal. He's going to move himself back. The reset on the blue buff means that no, that's just going to waste a little bit of time, especially from Score. It's now Def taking about half his health bar, but trading it back in kind onto Bang, as Wolf has already used his exhaust.
And Score's still here. He's much stronger than Jarvan at level 1.
Yep. He's the referee.
He doesn't actually have kill pressure because he's going to run out of mana.
And there's a lot of wolves down here as well as Blank turns it around. Remember that first auto attack does loads of damage from the Jarvan.
The electrocute proc as well, and Score's like, well, going away with my tail between my legs. So turned around in a couple of ways there. The mana cost was also going to be a problem. No one wants to leash for their junglers anymore because it's all about getting to lane. When it's Tristana versus Kalista, was same story in game number 1. Score goes over to his red buff. Still way able to use his passive to get attack speed. He's going to be very low on his first clear.
Yeah, I think it was all calculated. Papa just wanted to get himself low to make sure that his clear is as fast as possible. Does make some sense. This is dangerous.
It's one of those things where I'm baited into thinking that it's Olaf level 1. He's got the axes. Jarvan's only got the flag, but the passive and electrocute ended up actually doing more damage than both Score and I expected. Turns it around, and blue buff finally taken as safely as possible. You can see that the health cost for both junglers is going to be felt more on the side of the Jarvan, and that's why Smeb's going in.
Yeah, and Smeb actually doesn't decide to use the hookshot to get over the wall where he possibly could have just grabbed himself a kill. But it does mean that the Gromp not going to be taken, and Blank this time heavily punished for his positioning in the jungle.
So let's talk a little bit more about why all this happened. If Score invades and goes for a 1v1 and doesn't die, he returns to his jungle, and if he's low health, he can still clear it because of the Olaf passive. So he's priced in to going for an extended contest. He eventually had to back away. He knew his clear would still be intact, his timing would still be intact, and end result for Blank is pretty heavy loss of time. His level 3 is going to be very delayed.
Yeah. Well, time around, Score actually gets himself in here, and Bro is yelled out from Score. Loads of damage as he's one level ahead, lands the undertow after the flash, and now a couple more. He's just holding onto it, doesn't even need it. First blood goes to Score in the jungle.
And this is what Score is about. This is jungle pathing, even though it looked comical that he was forced out after the level 1. He follows the logic. He knows that the recall is on top side. You go where your second big buff is. Predictable stuff from Blank. Read like a book by Score.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And is this a look at what KT can now do, running Rush and Score interchangeably, giving Score this level up from the jungle? It's terrifying. The chickens are going to go over to him as well, and this is the kind of Olaf that you get legitimately scared of.
And this is great because it's theory into practice. We always talk about, oh, in the back, they're watching the games. We're only speculating. We can't see the players. But it's what always made sense about the Blank and Peanut situation. It's nice to see that theory go into practice. Score was able to use the information. It may not decide the game, but it's a good moment for the KT coaching staff because it vindicates the big risk of Rush playing in game number 1.
Yeah. You can see Tal up here towards the top side has actually opted in for Kleptomancy. So we've been seeing a lot more of the Grasp of the Undying, but Klepto is going to be picked up. Means that there is a bit more of an onus on Smeb to get more of this harassment down. Is actually ahead in farm by quite a margin, but have a look at Klepto. It gets a little bit scary when that lead isn't something like 35 creeps at 4 minutes into the game.
It's so strange because I look at that, and even in solo queue, you see almost no Klepto gangplank, unless it's someone who's just auto-filled into top lane. Basically, everyone is going Resolve because you don't have the Bandit passive, you don't have the other gold generation. I look at this and say, okay, why is he going Klepto? It's a decent matchup into the Camille. You don't die. You can Q poke and be able to do just fine when it comes to cashing up and pilfering the items. I look at it and say, maybe it's an incentive to force the enemy jungler topside and get Tristana more farm in the risky 2v2 bot side. So I actually look at it as a bit of a global taunt, looking in a Teemo by going for the Kleptomancy and saying, why wouldn't you gank me? I went Klepto.
Well, speaking of ganking, that's another Undertow that's going to land. Score gets the smite in there as well. He's going to peel away as soon as he sees Swain moving on over, but Blank just can't enter his jungle.
Be happy to go for the steal. He used his summoner, so he has to be a little bit scared if he ever sees Azir half step over, but we know the recall has come through from Blank. Heavy counter jungling here. It's pretty reminiscent of the LCK Summer Final. You remember there was a lot of counter jungling on Zax and a lot of denial in that series. We're seeing it here again. It's just trying to take advantage of the positive jungle matchup. We did not see this sort of play in game 1 in the exact same matchup. But even though Score is not known for the same relentless aggression that made Rush famous, he's actually making the vision plays that were the problem. From game 1, to me, the big missed opportunity for KT is they had winning lanes, they had preferential lanes, but they never got down deep vision. In fact, SKT were winning the ward game, and the vision score, which usually is not a very important stat to mention, showed that Rush wasn't very involved in either placing or clearing vision. That is Score's strong suit, and that's what I expect most to change in game number 2.
Well, you can see what Yukal's been able to utilize as well from this added aggression. He's got a huge lead in the mid lane, 17 creeps against Faker, and Faker so defensive in the item build as Negatron Cloak comes out as item number 1 up against the Azir.
And let's be clear, in the mid lane, Swain is not an overpowering force. He has decent wave clear for mid lane, great wave clear for top, but most of the meta mid laners have fantastic wave clear. Talia, for example, in game number 1. The Azir, even after the nerfs, in game number 2. Very much this is, we're taking advantage of a flex pick. I can be competitive against the Azir. I won't die because if a Streamer Shuffle comes in, I ult and I don't die, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. But it's only about safety and defensive posturing. The all-in, it's much later for the Swain.
Yep, still opportunities for Yukal, and the more fed Score gets, the more terrified SKT get as well.
Isn't it amazing that 1 game later, just with the change being the jungler, all 3 lanes are up in CS pretty significantly. And guess what? When the enemy jungler has no presence because wherever he goes, he's dying, it's very hard for your lanes to push up and look for those extra CS. You have to be more respectful. And rolling back the draft has gotten KT a 1,400 gold lead at 8 minutes.
Yeah, the really interesting thing to me as well is that bottom side of the map. It just... Normally the Tristana is picked into the Kalista as a counterpick. Well, always was, you know, as far as history was concerned. Slight nerfs now coming in onto both of these champions, and Deft is still able to play out that lane very effectively. It's still very, very close, but Marta exiting this lane at the moment, moving towards his blue buff.
But think back to that point. Remember that that's with equal supports. That's with both tank supports or both range supports. This is with a tank support and the Fate's Call to kill the Karma. That was the last pick when they knew that bot lane was running very risky 2v2, a pushing 2v2, the Karma, to help the Tristana laning presence, other things being equal, but you include the Fate's Call and the all-in, and that's why the Kalista makes sense in the 2v2.
Well, Faker's going to find Yukal, who will need to shuffle his way out. Actually gets into Blank and picks him off. So much damage as Yukal's able to grab that kill for the second one for KT. Trying to get out of the way. The flash in from Faker, who does have the Demonic Ascension, gets the Demon Flare and locks it in. Faker now trying to run away and score. Not going to be able to stay in here. The flash, he tries to get it. The Ignite goes down and Mata will just away jump shot. Oh, the Inspire comes in and Faker isn't going to die. Hero play from Wolf.
Shield duration of all things saves in his top lane.
Smeb just gonna get soloed by Tal. What the? This is a Klepto Gangplank. What's happening?
We're getting Pandemonium. It's not done yet. Score poking around the back of the turret. They're not going to get it. SKT. The top lane was the surprise. But Wolf bailing out his mid laner, old friends, and Wolf and Faker keeps SKT's hopes alive.
Yep, absolute disaster on the top side for KT, and it seems to have not stopped yet. Mountain Drake not going to be considered here from KT, as now Score needs to get back around his jungle, keep clearing things out as the dust settles. 1,000 gold is the lead for KT, but that is not how they wanted that to go.
Let's watch through what happened here. Yukal was fantastic here. He read the situation perfectly. They had the control vision, but Faker's just waiting to actually get the ult. The range was his only question mark. He flashed in. It's always going to be a 1-for-1. Then bot lane rotates first. When you have the Mantra Inspire, you can get there. Let's watch topside as we can't see the item lead as it stands now. It seems like Smeb, even on lower health, thought he could take the all-in. Watching the replay here. Just goes for the all-in, takes the damage, takes a turret shot. And the moment he took the turret shot, he realized he was burned.
Yep, that was the most instant oranges I've ever seen as well. That hook shot looked like it missed. He didn't. He just had himself a snack and killed a Camille.
What does this mean? Because KT are all about keeping up tempo. They never established enough tempo early. Got 2 turrets. That was the uptick for KT in game number 1. But then, of course, SKT won a fight, got Baron, and the tempo didn't matter. The tempo needs to be maintained. They're going to need to keep playing as they are, aggressively, taking advantage of Score's ability to 1v1 the enemy jungler. You've given up a couple of kills. Smeb's feeling a little bit silly about himself on how he played the top side. That game plan needs to hold true because they still have the Kalista in the late game. They're going to be heavily outclassed by Chitana.
Yeah. Now KT moving themselves over to this Mountain Drake. They want to be able to take objectives. This is the perfect dragon to do so. With 4 men here, shouldn't be a steal from Blank this time. The birds turn up and they leave immediately. As Faker's just going to head towards the mid lane, try and get whatever shove he can. With this Abyssal Mask build that is coming in, remember the nerfs, meaning that he has to be in Demonic Ascension right in the faces of KT to really get anything out of that one. As once again, snack timing from Tal is fantastic.
Last half full story for SKT is, oh, we'll hold the point.
Yeah, Empress Divide comes in as Score turns up exactly the right time. Oh, Blank's here as well. They do manage to lock down the kill, but now will Score actually fall? Cataclysm comes in, but this is going to be a double for Yukal. That's a disaster for SKT, but at least they get 1 back.
Yukal getting both kills. Pretty important there. He's going to keep pushing on him. Might even get the turret here. No rotation from bot side. First outer turret goes down. Credit KT. They kept up the pressure. And even in bot lane, stopping the recall timings from SKT.
Yep. Wolf not going to be able to do anything to Mata here as he's ahead. And that is going to be that. Red buff helps burn it down. And first turret blood solo gold going to the Azir is frightening news. Now, can Tal use this lead to try and navigate them through this mid-game is the question.
And the fact that he was able to engineer a lead is what we need to talk about, Atlas. Remember that Tal, against Smeb, has been able to stand up and engineer leads, been able to outplay Smeb. It's one of our queries that Tal was able to overpower QV. He didn't look great in the best of 3 that KSV played. He's had a tough season as QV. Tal, with strong picks, has been able. But so far, he's been equal to the task, and they will need him if they can win a best of 5 to be this strong.
Yeah, just so confident in the Gangplank versus Camille matchup as well. It's very impressive play out of the top lane. 800 gold is going to be the lead for the Gangplank. Kleptomancy always surprises me, Popo.
Well, you have to mention he also got a kill and 2 assists. So.
That is, yeah, well, I mean, true, but boy, still a lot of gold at 13.5 minutes into the game.
Yukal also 19 CS, 3 kills, pushing up onto Faker, who's now in a short lane with low AP, so it's going to actually impact his wave clear after the nerfs.
What is that damage, Yukal? Vision of Empire not going to find him. Well, it does find him, but not going to do any damage.
You can mention the amount of games where Faker has been pushed into his inner turret and has no lane control in, what, the last 5 years? On kind of two hands, Alice. It does not happen very often. He won't often pick himself into a laning disadvantage or a wave clear disadvantage, but he has no control of the mid lane, whereas in this game, the Azir has a paddock to roam around. The ability to push in the higher damage build. And speaking of that paddock, he's going topside.
Yep, Bang Bros coming in here as Blank. Not a lot of vision around the area. And Score gets into this tri-brush pretty comfortably. But Deft should be able to grab this turret. No, actually decides a lot of respect is deserved by Tal. Moves out of the way. Will be another minion wave before that bottom lane outer turret goes down, if at all. Score. Cute little smite gets it away from Blank.
Huge lead. He's up 10 camps over the Jarvan. Also has more assists to his name. Or definitely has been premier jungler in the first 15 minutes, and KT have a much bigger lead than they did in the previous game. Like the rotation from SKT, who sack the 2v2 and say, we don't really want Kalista in lane that much as bot lane.
Yeah, Flash comes in, he's going to trade it, and there's the Glacial Fissure. Nowhere that Tal can go, and they're just going to smack him down. Score picks up that kill easily. Blank immediately trading, as well as Bang on the top side of the map. SKT trying to get the maximum out of this, but they know exactly what's going on. Can KT do anything about it?
Nice vision play there from KT. They knew where they were strong. They returned to a mid lane.
Okay. There's the Emperor's Divide. Faker will have to walk all the way around it unless he wants to use his flash, but he doesn't. He's just going to get priority in the mid lane. Wolf's going to join him there as well, and it might be that SKT can take a lot more than they necessarily should from this play, as this inner turret takes no damage on the bottom side.
We're seeing an earlier recall from the Kalista. Doesn't want to stay bot lane to try to pack up. Stop this mid lane turret going down, but I think they might have been out-rotated there, and the Rift Herald will certainly guarantee that. So overall, while a kill went the way of KT Rolster, they should lose a turret here, although Score still in lane, waiting to see if SKT overstays.
Yeah, well, that boop from Shelly is going to easily take down the outer turret. Not a lot that KT can do about that one. Def's going to turn up and turn her into 25 gold, so he's going to feel okay about it. But 15 CS is now the lead for UCal in the mid lane. Now we've got the objectives evened out almost completely. KT fans can breathe a little bit easier now. 3,000 gold is still the lead for KT, so they're not out of the woods just yet. But as this game ticks ever onwards, feels better and better if you're a fan of SKT moving to a 2-0 lead in the series.
Let's return to expectations, because you remember SKT took a better fight when KT should have been its strongest and misplayed it. It's bot lane. UCal gets a lot of free damage on Bang.
Yeah, who doesn't have a lot of mana, uses the last of it to rocket jump his way out.
But in this game, if there's a 22-minute fight, SKT will have less damage than was available to them in game one. Azir was able to carry a lot of that damage output. Bang was able to get out of lane with a CS advantage. He's in a CS disadvantage. The Swain has gone a tanky build. One item, two item gangplank isn't the stuff of terrors. So KT actually have relatively a stronger skirmish and 5v5 than they did earlier. Now, they still get to the same point to SKT. In fact, they'll have more damage as the game goes on than they did in game number one. But they were able to come online about 5 minutes earlier. And I say their builds and champions will allow them to in game number two. So potentially that's more room for KT to choose the right fight and actually punish SKT's draft.
Yeah, when it comes to choosing the right fight, I think that one is imminent as well, as Smep takes a lot of damage, clipped by the very edge.
Remember that Baron speed? It's looking 20% faster, Atlas.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
Unless Blank is able to steal away this Mountain Drake.
Well, they're going to pull it out of the pit at least, as Martha's going to get knocked up. He might actually just be falling down here, as Fate's Call is going to bring him out. Deft saves his support. But it should be that SKT can get at least priority on this Dragon. Blade of the Ruin King used just to slow down the altered up Swain. And the reset on the Dragon means that KT get position to move back in.
Now,
SKT do not want
down,
this.
Remember.
Yeah.
Looking for the steal.
Yeah, Marta actually moving up aggressively yet again. Glacial Fissure goes down. They do grab the Dragon as Blank Flag and drags his way out. SKT want nothing to do with this now, as Nevermove doesn't find the target.
Really tenuous stuff. SKT knew they were strong to engage after Marta was chunked out at the start. But then when Demonic Ascension timed out, they couldn't take a 4v4. That's some sort of a lead. They didn't have one. They back away. And it is double Mountain Drake and Azir Kalista securing damage to take this Baron.
Yeah, it'll go down extraordinarily fast. Blade of the Ruin King completed. Hurricane probably very soon for Deft here as well, who's been farming up quite excellently the first 20 minutes of this game, and now going to go home and pick that one up. Black Cleaver will be there also for Score, so item timings means that KT feels great about getting a very early Baron.
KT probably feels pretty bad about Score popping his ultimate and thinking the axe would interrupt the recall from Wolf. It didn't, so it was a bit of a zoning ultimate. He just went red in the face. He was embarrassed. It was a bashful Olaf ultimate.
Oh, dear. Feels bad. Well, I mean, hopefully now, you know, he's got the Black Cleaver, 20% cooldown reduction. He's feeling better.
And he's gone for the Snowball build. He has not gone for Warmogs first. He's gone for Black Cleaver to facilitate more damage from Deft. I'm a fan of it because, like we said, you pick up the first Baron or you kind of pack up and say, well, maybe game 3 is our lifeline here. I like a bit more damage. I like KT doubling down around where their strength is rather than trying to paper over weaknesses.
Yeah.
I feel like in the European LCS, if there was an Olaf in this scenario, we might actually see something like a Zeke's Convergence instead of the Black Cleaver, just to amp up the damage on Deft even further. We're seeing it more and more diversified. Trundle item, Skarner item, now we're seeing even Olaf pick it up situationally, because you're often ulting in range of your AD carry and thus being able to pass over the Zeke's Convergence. But the Black Cleaver helps in the 1v1, and that was what Score allows himself with picking up that item.
Yeah, Hurricane not quite complete here for Deft as we have a look down the items, speaking of which. Marta has the Aegis, but otherwise not up to anything just yet. Let's see whether he's going to be able to hit his second item timing before the Baron is attempted by KT. Speaking of which, the Purple Worm now exists in that pit. Vision available here for SKT.
And remember that if you ever get Vision of the pit, which is very possible, KT have the ability to put down 3 control wards and say, hey, do you want to face check this? Remember, there's the Swain W, the Vision of Empires, to spot out a Baron start. They also have a Trinket ward. They actually have the Gangplank ultimate. They have many different non-committal ways to check the Baron. So a Baron sneak is impossible. A pick into Baron, that's where the possibility is there for KT.
Yeah, they really want to be able to get themselves something to grab that worm, because what their comp is going to be relying on. Smeb moves himself back away from the very scary pirate on the bottom side, who's going Essence Reaver second by the looks of things. Tal, just the greediest build possible because he was handed an early game. Now the Hurricane's in. Now Morellonomicon is done. Trinity Force there finally for Smeb. Things are starting to come together for KT, who will now want to try and get all of that vision control that you were talking about on this top side.
And let's be clear. KT don't actually get relatively stronger through items than they are right now. 2 items on the Callista. It's very much still her go time. The Morellonomicon gets just the most ludicrous value against Swain Gangplank on the side of SKT. This is where they are strongest. This is where they need to claim the Baron. If they don't get it in the next 5 minutes, it's hard to see KT Rolster winning the game.
Yeah. This is before Infinity Edge timings from Bang here as well, so it's just stacking up. Everything you look at points to KT needing to find a fight right now. Marta, yeah, he knows exactly what's going on. They find Blank, they jump on top of him. This could just spell the Baron, and it's going to be flashes coming out everywhere. Marta realizing that Winter's Bite landing could mean another kill, but now this could be it.
And this is the time they needed the pick. They get it. They're going to try and start it here.
Never move was nice there on to Score, but SKT, not a lot of options. This Baron is going to get slaughtered.
They should put out the Gangplank ult first. It's actually going for the TP first.
Yep,
it's going to be
come down, interrupted all too easily, and that's going to be the Rend locking down the Baron. Flashes from KT, they all move out, and Deft is able to grab Marta as well, who was the only one without a flash.
Big mistake from Tal. Ult first, you know they're going to go on to Baron. They just Ramboed to try to kill your jungler. And that went the way of SKT at the same damn timestamp in game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely glorious timing from Marta to move around for the flank on the Braum as well. We all know his Braum, absolutely fantastic, but that is just a timing play that Marta knew he could manage to accomplish. Now, what can KT do with this Baron for another 3 minutes?
They've got so much Atlas. Their items are at their maximum power. Suddenly, Smeb is going to have a happier time in the 1v1 that was slightly going the way of Tal. Tal went for a teamfight build, going for Essence Reaver, usually IE next. Going for the big chain link barrel to explode people. Not as good in the 1v1 because what do people usually build against Camille? Sterix Gauge. That's far away in this particular game. So who knows, the right all-in, and maybe Camille can get the solo kill to really push KT over the edge.
Yeah, now Blank actually going to be spotted on this ward as well. The control ward not quite in range to pick that one up, as Yukal knows that he's very, very safe. Hanging out here towards the top side, even Undertow doing some relevant damage onto Bang, who's just clearing out vision. At least going to be able to do so. We've got Rabadon's Death Cap possibly being looked for here by Yukal as third item, foregoing the Void Staff, which is sometimes an item number 2 for an Azir. Yukal just feels snowballed. He's going to be able to take down the last outer turret on the top side. That's going to be the first of Potentially a few more here for KT if they can get their minion waves in order.
It was a straight-up mistake if he didn't go for Merlinomicon this game. Is maybe gonna try and get the pick on Mata.
Yep, does throw the ultimate back in. They get on top of Blank. He's the only target. There's a Cataclysm, catches the Braum, and that's going to be that. Wolf is able to pick up that kill. Faker off to the side, not going to be able to get anything done, but it's 2 kills for SKT, and the fat flash from Faker is going to get him out.
Big mistake there from KT. The Fate's Call was on cooldown, and Deft ended up also trying to spare the bluster of his support by walking up, but SKT rolled on there being no Fate's Call. They were correct. This will slow down the Baron, although slowing down Smeb is going to be tricky.
Yeah. Understands that if he manages to get that Q working for him, he's able to do a lot of damage on the Tal with this particular build.
Interesting audio.
I
don't know if that's coming through on the stream, but very easy for us to lose concentration there.
I'm sorry.
Marduk lost concentration as well. That was the big problem for them, was they walked up expecting Fate's Call to be available. It wasn't after the nurse. Now at Drake.
Yep, ultimatum going to be immediately flashed out from Smeb, who just wants to find Blank. Lots of damage onto Tal, who was in the front line when he doesn't want to be. Third Mountain Drake comes in as Yukal. Oh, Blasco not going to be enough, and Smeb's going to be able to help grab that kill for Yukal in the jungle.
And they'll keep pushing up. Faker doesn't have teleport on the Swain. Went for Phase Rush, Ghost Flash. They'll try and take objectives. Faker only going to be pushing. Nice pick up the bonus kill. And triple Mountain Drake, whether it's the Elder Dragon or the next Baron. KT Rolster basically sniffing the direction, and it dies.
Yeah, and the turret does as well, as that was a quarter of the turret's health taken away very, very quickly. Deft also going to be able to experience the same amount alongside of Yukal, so inner turrets falling bottom and mid in quick succession with the last 10 seconds of this Baron remaining.
Gotta admit, it does remind you of the games where KT would pick no frontline in a meta where everyone took tanks and get 3 Infernal Drakes, because they've definitely been helped out by the Drake spawns in this game. They can do an impersonation of a siege with Triple Mountain.
Yep, Drake hacks certainly working out for KT as SKT chasing after them. Bottom lane Jewel still feeling like SKT have some options. Looks like Rageblade could be coming in as third item here for Kalista, and now more of a scaling option does make some sense here in his hands.
Bit more lifesteal, gives you a lot of options there. We see it against very tanky comps. We're not seeing one from SKT, but if it helps them actually kill the Swain, they'll feel good about it.
Yeah.
A lot of health stacking coming through from that particular champion. While KT aren't able to get the maximum value out of the Baron, they still are able to take it at the right time. Grow now an 8,000 gold lead in the 1v1. The Sterix Gauge is just not going to be built straight up by Tal. So in the 1v1, I think Smeb does have all-in options to try to kill the Gangplank. So far, KT definitely in a relatively better spot than the kill score would, on first glance, indicate.
Yeah, the only defensive option that Tal actually has built up since we last saw him and Smeb fighting was that Ninja Tabi, so not going to be doing too much, and now Smeb has the Sterix Gauge for the ultimate Trinity Force synergy.
And remember that SKT, if KT aren't able to keep growing the lead, do have an immense teamfight team where the max damage barrels will zone, the Swain will zone, and the Tristana is soon to hit 3 items. There still is certainly light at the end of the tunnel for SKT, just like there was in Game 1. So that light is further away. KT are further ahead than they ever were in game number 1. But it only matters if they're crashing inhibitors. They're staying outside the base. SKT will still think that one team fight could turn around the game.
Yeah. Feels like the insurance policy is there for SKT, but sometimes just all happens too quickly before you can call your insurance company, and then the game's over. So we'll see whether KT can actually close this one out. Still waiting for the Baron. Minute and a half before KT can start trying to siege again, but as far as 3-item timings, this could be a new one for Kalista to look forward to now on 8.6 with that Rageblade now feeling a little bit different.
What I want SKT to do, what I want to see for them when the Baron spawns, is put up pretty defensive control wards, basically to the left of the mid lane turret, or where it would have been, and just have range on the Swain to allow him to non-committally check with the W. Have the Gangplank ultimate early and able to check, because KT just want to play around Baron, and SKT have 3 different ways from range, if you include the blue trinket, to check the Baron. So as long as they can walk roughly in the area with the Swain in order to check, it's very difficult for KT to sneak it. Now, they have a lot of Baron damage, they have a lot of Baron secure, but most practice teams will peel off if they're ever spotted.
Yeah. Feels like a My Fair Lady reference, Papa Smithy. The range from Swain can really be a pain.
That's what the LCK fans come for, the My Fair Lady references.
Oh, I feel like I just don't really understand our demographic because that movie is really old.
Do you understand that Score is an entire Black Cleaver ahead of the Jarvan?
I do.
That's
I
a
watched
lot.
him kill him at about 4 minutes into the game.
That part has definitely been successful. Blank is basically a Cataclysm and no more. I guess he's able to tank Baron, which is very relevant. I saw the NLCS semifinal. Warmog's pretty good.
Yeah, right. Quite able to activate it just yet, I don't believe, unless he's high enough level. Don't believe so.
Maybe. Jarvan's base HP is not huge. Level 12, I'm going to say no. Maybe 13 or 14, though.
Yeah, he's getting close-ish.
Well, wasn't able to spy the HP value he was on. We'll see him soon, I'm sure. Speaking of him.
Well, Score is going to find a double undertow and Blank immediately down to half health. He has to get the hell out of there, and we'll see whether it's going to start charging back up, because that's going to be a huge deal, and it looks like no. The Jarvan may actually need to go home.
It is really scary for SKT to give any free time. Maybe they just give up the Baron. They're going to check it's going to be too late.
I don't think they've got an option to give up the Baron, as it's actually going to be taken by the Azir of all people. Glacial Fissure isn't going to find anyone, though, and SKT are given a free way out of any subsequent fight. Smeb, be careful, buddy. No, he's going to be okay. Barrel's going to be utilized to try and clear out some waves as a Vision of Empire flying through once again. He's going to find an Olaf, and Blank's going to say, get me the hell out of here. Runs himself away. Defensive duty here for SKT if they can.
So much damage, they have to actually threaten death in order to stop the siege from being successful. I mean, the minion wave pretty fast, though.
Yeah. He's going to go down. Score, getting himself into the front line. Even though he doesn't necessarily have defensive statistics, he is still extraordinarily scary, has Ragnarok still available, and can flash on top of anyone he wants. Still, relevant damage coming out of Bang. Static Shiv working out when everyone's grouped up like this.
So risky from KT. You can see how long it takes with them. Is KT able to threaten with just a Vision of Empire?
Yep. Decent positioning as well, keeping their health bars relatively high. There's the Zhonya's utilized by Def, or at least the mechanic, as that is a very dead Jarvan.
Well, that's what no items looks like.
I was about to talk about the Cataclysm, and he was dead, I felt, before he even cast it. But there's another pullback as the Flash Axe to be invested as well as the ult. And that's going to spell the end of the siege here for KT.
And that means that SKT do not lose their inhibitor turret, even with one member going down. We mentioned already, we outlined, siege incredibly poor on the side of KT Rolster. They're forced to back away, and, you know, one person dying and keeping up your inhibitor on the second Baron. You'd take that if you're SKT.
Well, Guardian Angel is now going to be completed by Def. That's why he had the stopwatch. And this is going to be certainly the win now. KT know exactly what this comp does, and it doesn't do a lot of winning the further this game goes on. Want to try and get themselves in there. Ravenous Hydra now completed for Smeb as well, so no Titanic for the Camille. He wants as much damage as possible, and as much of an ability to clear out the wave if he's fighting someone.
All about closing this game out before the constituent parts of the items that SKT need to answer KT are done. Infinity Edge done for Gangplank, big power spike. Swain, really only a zone tool, doesn't have almost any damage on the build as things stand. The Justana, a Last Whisper or a lifesteal item away from really being fully online. SKT have most of it together, but KT have everything. They've got everything ready to go, but they have to break the base, otherwise you do feel that that pendulum can still cruelly swing towards the way of SKT and put SKT up 2-0.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that we can talk about is the Ardent Sensor now being completed from Wolf, so Bang is going to be slightly empowered, but is it going to be enough is the question. Still 40 seconds left on this Baron, but the wave clear coming out of the Gangplank, who has certainly been building purely so that he can kill things rather than stay alive. Means that it should be okay. Smeb deals with it though, and look at that damage onto the turret. Base broken, 2 places very, very quickly. The 3 mountains are playing dividends. The next one being the Infernal was certainly another thing going in favor of KT. Now inhibitor number 1 is going to go down. The banded up minion is going to head forward. We've got another 15 seconds left on this Baron. Ragnarok is going to be popped as Bang gets so much free damage onto the Olaf. Smeb should actually get stunned up here as well, and he will fall down. Immediately dies now as Faker moves himself forward. Deft should actually get brought down to the GA, and he does right in amongst SKT. And now, he's actually able to do it. Picks up the kill with potentially the Rend as Marta actually grabs up Blank just as an afterthought, I believe. KT, somehow the messy fight is working out considering the fact that they got into the base and broke it open, and now Marta moving his way over. Doesn't have Glacial Fissure, but there's the Fate's Call. No knock-up to come down as Deft. You can't be taking barrels. from this Gangplank.
It's not what KT wanted. They didn't want to fight here. They lose their front line and have to back away. It going fairly even is a bonus for them. They got the big objective. They got the 2 inhibitors. There's nothing on the map for SKT to answer them with. This is really only about picking up objectives. The Smeb walked up. He actually used the hook shot earlier before the clip started to threaten and engage. They didn't need to engage. They needed to get out. So while it ends up being messy, the gold lead means they spare the blushes of the team to some degree. It ends up being pretty even overall when KT Rolster would have been behooved to just back away.
Yeah, the Emperor's Divide was fantastic there from UCal in amongst all of that chaos. Make sure that Deft had every chance he could to get himself out. The sacrificial play, the young man in the mid lane for KT.
Item timing still super hurting SKT. Blank has constructed a null magic mantle on top of his nothing to basically, once again, only be a cataclysm.
Nothing.
It's a problem. I mean, Swain has now got a Leandris, a bit more, so Ludens, I should say, that's a bit more damage. But it seems like the front line is much more about the Zonias from Faker and the damage potential from Gangplank and Tristana, rather than just being a true frontliner. And that means that KT continue to push up, and SKT, they're on gank brush duty.
Yeah. KT, 3-man squad here on the bottom side. It's a 2-3 type push composition coming in. SKT not wanting to go up against the Camille and the Azir. The banner is going to help out as far as KT's shove.
Well, Tristana is going to answer it very easily unless the Unbreakable is used, and maybe that's a cooldown. Allows SKT to push up.
Yeah, like some sort of sandwich maneuver coming in here for KT. Smeb has a newly built Guardian Angel. Deft, of course, a few minutes before that one is available for him as well. And we'll see whether KT want to wait for that before starting any fight. As Rocket Jump actually going to get banged right in there as he starts off this fight. Blank could be in trouble, though. Flag and Drag was already used. He's not going anywhere apart from the Death Chamber.
Smeb?
But in goes Smeb. They want to find Bang, and they'll get him. The double kill comes in for Deft as he picks up the triple. Now Faker underneath the turret. He's going to die. Score is going to grab that one, and Bang knows it's all over now. It's a best of 3 as KT will be able to tie up this series.
Ladies and gentlemen, we definitely have a series on our hands. KT rolls it back and says, if we put in Score, we can adjust and we can win. And the difference between Score's performance and Rush's is the reason they win this game. Score absolutely dominated Blank, was able to prey on all of his tendencies. Blank was basically a caster minion by the end, not Flame. Unfortunately, could never get any of the farm. The rest of the team need to pick up the items in order to get strong. That meant nothing for Blank, and SKT blown away by KT Rolster's early game.
Yeah. And I mean, Tal did have a great performance. You're right. You can see a massive grin on Smeb's face, knowing that he kind of got away with being murdered in the early game.
What I want fans to appreciate at home is people will say, oh, Rush was the problem. Rush allows Score to have the information to play the style. They need Rush to be strong to make Score even stronger. And Score was able to tap in to the information, and the extra time to prepare that Rush's performance made. It is a big story for Rush to play one series and then play in game 1, but they have him on the roster to be their peanut, to be their game 1 jungler. If he picks up wins, fantastic. If he doesn't, it allows the squad to win. It's a squad game, and KT Rolster and their squad got them that game 2 victory.
Yeah, exactly right. It was just Rush going in, brushing all the dust off the map, and then Score has this fresh, clean, beautiful map that he can go into the next game on and just hunt down Blank and punish him at every single turn. That Jarvan did absolutely nothing in game number 2. And now, what is going to be the adaptation? Are we going to see a side switch or are we not?
That's the part I'm the most interested about instantly is that red side strategy looks pretty good.
Feels good, man.
They got gifted a red side game because game 1 was a loss. Now I'm so excited to find out just as something as simple as, is it red or blue?
Yeah. KT Rolster also, I mean, there are a lot of picks. The Braum looking like something that Marta has got complete control over. But guys, short break, and then we'll be back with game number 3 of playoff round 1. back, OGN Legion to LCK Spring Playoffs. KT fought back extraordinarily hard in game number 2. SKT falling to the power of Score, freshly subbed in.
Almost feels like KT could beta test this comp in game number 1. There was some kinks, but they largely returned to it with Score coming onto the lineup. But the adaptations for game 2 are just overpowering for the side of SKT. Unable to get their item timings, could not bring the game to 45 minutes and really trade upon the Stana team fights, and KT stuck with what was working, stuck with their preparation, and it was correct in game number 2. That means we come to game 3 in an even state, a mouth-watering game 3. Your MVP, to me, it has to be Score. It will be.
Oh, yes.
Score ran this early game. He made Blank a non-factor, and he deserves the MVP for his Olaf.
Yeah, his Viking work was outstanding. The test run from Rush worked out, and then he comes in and destroys Blank completely. I don't think there's a more utter destruction that you can see in League of Legends than this.
I feel like this was the biggest destruction since Buffless, which was, of course, when Peanut was able to render flawless Buffless a few years ago.
Yeah.
Outstanding read. The level 1 looked comical. He had to pull away from the jar, but the information from it led to him just making Blank predictable for the rest of the game. Able to get the first rotation, able to push up Vision. Remember, the Vision game is what fell away in game number 1 when Rush wasn't in the lineup. Really nice stuff from KT. It still was with risk. They were still going for Kalista. They're still investing heavily in the early to mid game. They cannot afford to make too many mistakes. In this game number 2, they were able to actually do that.
Yeah. Just really good stuff. It's frightening to see KT with this amount of control. Remember, it was just a 5-man roster in 2017. Now, all of this flexibility that they've added. UCal moving his way in, Rush there as well. Gigantic team fight here underneath the turret. Demonic Ascension not enough to do anything to KT as Score. Big grin on his face. Now, as you can see, KT moving over to the blue side of the Rift. And we'll see what that means for the draft.
It means a lot of change. It means also that there's a very low chance that Blank is forced onto Jarv in 3 games in a row. When we get into pick bans, we can talk about where we expect KT to go based on their reads so far this series. So excited to get into game number 3. First 2 have been fantastic. But like you say, KT choose blue side in game number 3. When I was looking at bans, thinking about what they want, Swain first pick, Kai'Sa first pick, that's what they want. So to me, Zac, Trundle, Xayah is the bans I would go, as SKT will play Xayah without Rakan. So you ban away the Xayah. On the blue side, then you take Olaf if it's up. But it seems like the Olaf is already banned. So do we just see the Olaf, Kai'Sa, and Swain banned by SKT?
Yeah, the first actual change here in the draft for SKT is the Olaf no longer going to be in the hands of Score. Trundle, though, is going to be ran back once again for KT. They look like they only know a first at least 2 bans so far this series.
A double ban against the Zac and the Trundle makes so much sense because it's what SKT, and specifically Blank, have shown priority on. And you look back, and unfortunately there's a lot of one-offs in his match history. The Skarner, the other picks that are big meta picks, but not big Blank picks so far. So I like the bans, and well, they're not even interested in the Xayah. Maybe they're going to first pick Xayah after seeing the Olaf ban, because we see the Sejuani banned away. Wasn't picked all banned, so maybe it'll be overlooked. They're just keeping Blank away from his champions and saying, what else do you have?
Well, Xayah Rakan is available because Kai'Sa has to be banned away here by SKT. The changes means that Ryze and Rakan are available, and KT wanting to trade Rakan over if SKT want to take it. And you have to feel that they're going to have to take it.
But isn't it fascinating that Xayah was left open in game number 2 and was never claimed by Bang? They feel like they have to deny Xayah Rakan because KT are about getting a better 2v2 than what SKT are able to put together. That's just them as a team. Deft and Marta getting the 2v2 advantage. They very often pick 2, but they're willing to offer up Swain to make it happen, even though UCal, just like BDD and some of our best Swain players, has been popping off on the pick.
Yeah. Now Tile can possibly go towards the top side of the map on that Swain if he wants to. Faker could once again pick that one up, so a lot of flexibility remains on SKT's
So
side.
let's talk about what KT have gotten and what they've given up. They've given up getting a preferential 1v1 lane for Smeb in most cases, because now Swain can be flexed to final pick. They have given up that, but they've probably ensured a winning 2v2 because Xayah X is almost always going to be stronger than Rakan X when it comes to the strength of the laners. Xayah is a higher strength laner than the Rakan. So we do have the Star-Crossed Lovers. The sacrifice is going to be Smeb. Might actually end up being counterpicked by Tal pretty heavily.
Yeah, and we've got 4 jungle bands coming in, Score grabbing the next cab off the rank, which is that Skarner. Yukal, we'll see what he's going to lock away here for KT, because it could be that we line up the bottom lane with a Braum pick, because Mata's so incredibly good on that. But Yukal, he just wants to be able to grab himself some comfort in the mid lane.
And the reason why you see the Talia is with the Azir band, the best way about playing against mid lane Swain is to push and roam, to be elsewhere, to snowball the game before the Swain has all his items. If you remember game 2, Faker was kind of isolated with very low damage build even when the game ended. He needed a 4th or 5th item to get going. So the idea here is to play around the Swain wherever possible. Still could be a top lane Swain, of course, as Blank doesn't have anything left after the 4 bans and the takeaway. He will return on Jarvan for a 3rd game in a row.
Yeah, and that is a scary prospect, because game number 2, Score certainly had his number. But as we move into the bans, we'll see where the focus is going to be. Almost every single time it was supports. It might once again be where SKT's head is at. They might want to try and attack Smeb here just a little bit more as well, because Tal getting that decent matchup could be another opportunity for SKT to find leads.
Feels like Morgana, Janna are the sort of supports that you're thinking about here for Mata. Morgana, just to be able to put the Black Shield even onto the Skarner for an engage.
Yeah.
But the range support to try to really punish on the Rakan lane. KT can ban some AD carries away, and they take away...
they're going to ban Ezreal Tahm Kench, Pop Smithy. That's what they're going to do.
It seems very likely.
No, they can't ban Tahm Kench because Rakan's already been picked.
Exactly.
We're not going to play solo lane Rakan. So finally, we're going to have a deviation.
Banning away AD carries to try to make it a fairly weak Rakan 2v2 laning phase wherever possible. Again, they've likely given up Smeb's lane. They want to double down on a winning bot lane to KT. You're going to be banned away to take away the safe blind pick. The Smeb always loves to run, even after being solo killed in game number 2.
Gangplank going to be the next option. This does make a lot of sense. Was somewhere that KT found themselves in a detriment.
It's definitely Thresh time for KT.
Oh, hell yeah.
They have picked for a winning 2v2. They've given up the top lane. They still want to play aggressive. They're still trying to roll it back. This identity is again the same. Zoning and a hyper carry from SKT. KT, they may not be visiting the Kalista, but they're very much about the earlier power spikes. They take the Thresh. Thresh Skarner, the Griffin special for those really big suppressions. And now KT Rolster need to blind pick a top lane or potentially a lane into the Swain. Top lane Annie was a thing into Gnar as recently as All-Star, but probably not going to happen here.
Yep. Looper special from back in China. They are going to switch over to the Ornn. So Smeb taking that tank, and now the SKT just pick Kassadin and say, screw it, we're just going to kill you.
It's really interesting. There's so many different ways they can approach this. When it comes to the Ornn, he can face anything. So SKT has so many options mid and top lane. And they're going to take a lot of time to decide here. They might be bringing back the Renekton. It would be Conqueror Renekton if it was going to be the Renekton. Consider their options again. Will they give up the push again? They will not.
It's
going to be the Renekton. It's probably going to be our first Conqueror champion in pro play on patch 8.6. Best the attack. Also very possible. But they go Renekton to try to punish the 1v1. So Tal had the choice. Do I pick for lane or do I just wave there against an Ornn? He picks for lane. That's usually how SKT go. It may not be a Cassiopeia top, but this Renekton is to boss laning phase and stop KT from just grouping in the mid game and taking advantage of their earlier spikes and punishing the Tristan.
Yeah, we have to remember as well that Jarvan and Renekton, if you think back to when those two were played together.
First Blood City, baby.
It's disgusting. It's one of the most filthy 2v2s that you can ever get. And Ornn, what's he going to do? Sit in a brush and build something? No, it's not time for playing with bricks. It's time to die.
He won't even be able to blow his horn because he won't have it yet. He's going to be so sad because the level 2 ganks that you mentioned have been their meta on meta. The 2014 special of the Renekton is back. Very excited to see the Keystone choice. I thought it might only be in situationally as an answer to a Jax pick, as Conqueror Jax is running around the solo queue. But Tal picking for lane is how SKT have got this far in the gauntlet, and they return to it with a Renekton.
Yeah, and can KT Rolster get the work done or elsewhere on the map? Because now you've got Xayah and Thresh on the bottom side will be much more dangerous, and they've got that coveted Griffin combo in the Skarner with Lantern availability.
You look at this draft and say, they've got scaling, but if you lose the scaling war and then Ornn and the Skarner are roaming around, the picks will be very powerful. KT, I think you have to set up that Jarvan. I think you have to be proactive, because if Olaf has tabs, or if they have tabs on Blank, things could really fall away.
Yeah, this could be really, really scary, but I'm so excited to get into game number 3. It's now a best-of-3 series for all of the I feel like the KT fans were a little bit louder this time, but still, SKT ringing true. So many fans here in Korea.
Think back to so many historic games between the organizations of KT and SKT.
Oh, yeah.
Summer semifinal was the reverse sweep by SKT. A year before, the summer semifinal was the reverse sweep by KT. Wet for esports, Z versus Z match. That was a reverse sweep for SKT. This will not be a reverse sweep, so history can always be very relevant. In the history of Korean League of Legends, there has only been 2 times that KT have ever been able to beat SKT in a best-of-5, and one of those 2 times was the KT rolls to Arrows against SKT T1S, and most people wouldn't involve that because Faker was not on that team. Only that reverse sweep in 2016 summer has been a best-of-5 win. So it's exciting to see this one at 1-1 because it's a bit uncharted territory, Atlas.
Yeah, and when you talk about KT versus SKT, often you're more referring to score versus SKT.
Sure.
Because he's pretty much the only one that's still been there. And by pretty much, I mean definitely.
At least he wasn't on the Arrows, so that one has to be remembered there. So in this game, Tal has gone Conqueror. So first game of Conqueror in the LCK. Basically, it's trying to be a replacement for Fervor of Battle when it comes to the top lane bruisers. All about being in combat for 4 seconds and then getting extra AD and converting 20% of your damage to true damage. If you're trying to puncture through the Ornn, who we know is going to be stacking tank items, true damage is going to be very, very relevant. And it allows lane bullies to not fall off against tanks as early because they get that extra oomph when they go for those engages later in the lane.
Yeah, and you best believe Smeb is going to be building shirts in brushes a lot this game because he needs as much armor as he can possibly get as soon as possible against Tal.
There's just something refreshing around a precision into a domination Renekton in the top side.
Yeah.
That is aggressive. That's cool to see at the competitive level. But that's Tal. He picked for lane. Remember, his 2 choices he flashed was Shen and Renekton. They are the opposite in terms of what they bring to the game. He's not looking for playmaking. He's looking to make plays himself. We now see the last time we saw the Renekton was in the playoffs last season. So it does crop up from time to time. There are those runes. He's saying, I'm a damage dealer.
Yeah, he's going to be doing a heck of a lot of work. Getting a whole lot of that health back as well with the Ravenous Hunter is super handy.
Doesn't have any control on top side, so isn't able to push up early. Renekton's all about level 3 when he has access to all his abilities to be able to take the slice and dice trades. He very much wants vertical jungling. If Blank can take over the top side, put down some control wards, then he can actually use his slice and dice aggressively and have lane impact. If he's not able to slice and dice for fear of being ganked, he can't actually do that much hurt onto the Ornn.
Yeah. Look, he's going to find a minion here from Marta. Not using his own skin, which I think is a little bit frustrating. Now, Smeb, as we're talking about, going to be building some shirts. Has himself a cute little blue rock as well, so that's handy. Keeping his mana bar up.
Definitely going to feel good about a Glacial Shred.
Oh, yeah.
As the standard item for the Ornn.
I feel like every item that has armor on it, you're going to be feeling a little bit better each time.
I feel like we might have 5 games of early to mid game scaling versus late game hyper carry dream from Bang.
Yeah.
They're very much going for these Bang focused drafts. They very much are reaching for the Tristana. They blinded Tristana in game number 2. Was a bit more crimping of the pool this time to enforce the Tristana. KT trying to play around the Swain. They seem like they're practiced to take on Swain, and other teams have tried that. Vitality tried that, to leave open the Swain with counter strategies, and you need to be really on point with your macro, otherwise Swain will make you look like a fool 10 times out of 10 in the late game.
Oh yeah. See, Conqueror coming in there for Tal, announcing that he wants to fight Smeb, and Smeb saying, no thanks. Do what I can, just breathes on some minions here on the top side, and the wave is in a good position for the Ornn. Smeb playing this relatively rough early game out quite nicely so far, but this is about when things get hard as the wave starts to push back out. But KT, so much control on the bottom side, and I really love sort of the dichotomy of SKT versus KT with when they're strong, because playing through the bottom side is what KT does in the early game, playing through bottom side is what SKT does in the late game. It's all about when they get their power.
Also, it doesn't take looking at many stats to remember that SKT has one of our worst early games in the league, and KT has one of our best, so both teams are doubling down around where they're strong. For SKT, though, giving up early game in multiple games against KT Rolster, the sort of thing where you give up too much rope, and of course you can hang yourself. That didn't happen in game number 1. It definitely happened in game number 2 with Score. He's not on the Olaf. He doesn't have kill pressure, but he's not going to let Blank have any free camps if he can afford it.
Yeah, especially not if Blank is going to miss the smite on his own camps. Of course, unaware of the fact that the Skarner was there, so you can almost forgive him for that one. As Conqueror, once again, going to come out, and that means Poison Rush immediately from Smeb.
It's amusing that this matchup has changed so many times off screen, because we haven't had Renekton versus Ornn in the LCK, but I'm talking about previous patches. If the Unstoppable was still there, I think Ornn wins basically every trade, because there's only one CC effect onto the Renekton. You use your W at the right time, and you're like, well, I have all the options left open. Unstoppable is gone. The Conqueror is there. There's definitely many more windows that the Renekton can now punish. But still, Ornn is very strong against melee champions, because with Bellows Breath, it may not make you unstoppable, but it's very, very hard to win damage trades if that's timed at the right time.
Yeah, because you have to get through that shield at the same time.
And you take relevant damage as well.
And he's able to build items in lane. Dahl wants to be able to go back and grab what he can get.
This Impale is early, by the way, Atlas, in this particular game. I almost got to Kilios.
Yeah, you did.
Do notice that the Impale is up before Blank has hit level 6. He'll be spotted.
Yeah, Hook is going to come in and Score. Should be able to take a Lantern Ride. Wolf is going to dash away, but no, not quite enough damage. He just grabs onto the Tristana. Rocket Jump is going to be available. Deft in position to get some autos. Here's the ultimate coming out. Good knock up and the knockback. Yukal just timing the gank with his jungler on the bottom side, and first blood goes to Smeb.
That's called having your cake and eating it too. They almost got kills in both lanes. All 5 players almost involved in kills. They're not able to get the kill bot lane because at the end of the day, it seemed like Rakan was out of range and the only ult target was Bang, who had his summoners up. But still, able to make proactive plays, recall with preferential timings, and Faker's on the go / Swain. All they can do is push and then look for a back time.
Yeah. Just say, please don't die to the rest of his lanes while he does what he can. Yukal having really good timing on that one.
That is
towards the Sorcerer Shoes.
Definitely the epitome of let's play everywhere the Swain isn't as early as possible. That's exactly how you play against Swains. Again, quoting EULCS, but what if Vitality draft into the Swain every time? Talia, because Talia can push on the Swain, expose that from mid laner is wave pushing even on patch 8.6 isn't massively powerful. Try to get the game done before the Swain is tanky and does damage, because, well, that's when things really start to fall away for the enemy team.
Blank's going to try his hand at picking up an Infernal Drake. Lots of pings going down. As you can see, the Skarner is actually on the top side, and this should actually go over to SKT. 1,000 gold is going to be the lead for KT, but despite that, still going to be SKT picking up this first global objective on the map. Good timing there. Cal's going to grab himself a blue buff all too easy, and as the dust seems to settle, I'm looking at Bang's items feeling really bad for him, because having to go back and grab a pickaxe feels a little bit like you're on welfare. It's one of the things that they did get out of that gank on the bottom side.
Very early Ninja Tabi as well to try to disregard some of the deadly plumage trades that Deft is going to try to open up. The Infernal is a good sign for SKT. In Game 1, when they also had the scaling draft, they were able to get Drake control, and that was one of the reasons that after the mistake, KT had no way back in. KT were able to monopolize the objectives in Game number 2. But given that all they got was a scaling Drake, when they're about playing the early game, getting a gold lead, KT is going to be happy to see another invitation for SKT to want to take it late. They want gold now. They want more kills, and they're back.
Yeah, well, the Predator is going to come in. Impale is available, but Score just going to be knocked up. Takes out the Lantern forever, and they pick up the kill under Blank. You called the Griffin special. I think they were one-up. Just the Vision of Empire isn't able to find the little Scorpion.
There's a long ride, and there's basically the entire rift.
That's the roller coaster.
Oh,
that's
baby.
We've seen it. The KT roller coaster was just demonstrated.
We've seen it so many times. You don't PogChamp every time, but this time was the time of all times. Watch this. Maximum range ride. Whee! He says as he goes all the way along. He's still suppressed.
Ludicrous stuff from Score. I'm surprised he managed to survive that at all. Crystalline Exoskeleton must have done some work towards the end there.
Vision of Empire might have killed him. It was actually a nice dodge from Score on the back end. Is in the mid lane.
Speaking of dodges, not going to quite find it there. So Faker is going to disengage. Good timing there from Score and Marta to turn up. It's going to be the Demon Flare used to clear out the wave for Faker in the mid.
Isn't it nice that we can joke and laugh in a deadlocked 1v1 best-of-5 series.
Yeah.
League of Legends is the best.
It's just so good.
We can laugh, we can cry.
And that wasn't the ride that Blank wanted to go on
No.
either.
He was already,
game 2.
To be fair, he was on Score's wild ride in game number 2. He really wants off this ride.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the team certainly keeping up otherwise as Tal takes a lot of damage. Smeb, this is one of the things that happens in Renekton lanes. You know, you fall behind early. He's a fall behind, stay behind kind of champion until you get the right items, until you get something that can try and get you ahead, or someone makes a mistake. Because now, with Iceborne Gauntlet here, Smeb is doing damage now to Tal, and he's not taking a lot either.
And we return to the draft because we mentioned, okay, Renekton Filet, and that's still very true. But I think, you know, you were illustrating, oh yeah, Jarvan and Renekton, and Warrior Jarvan and Renekton going and doing a number on the Owen. Very possible. It's a tank Jarvan. Unfortunately, once again, he's behind. Not going to get too much gank assistance. I don't think Jarvan's going to come up even in this particular case. I think Tal loses the 1v1. He's against Iceborne Gauntlet.
Yep, he already is. His Dominus has been popped, but it's straight up not doing anything. Smeb just says, yeah, you can flash away. I'm going to keep killing creeps.
And Renekton's thing was always gank assist. He does have the ability to stun into Tiamat and do a lot of damage. Press the attack or Conqueror. But he has no backup from the jungle. A farming jungler who isn't going to react. And that means, like you say, he's a bit stranded when it comes to identity. Maybe SKT are already looking and saying, wish we had the Shen.
Yeah, well, Blank was looking for the reverse side of Shelly for quite some time as Faker moves his way over. Okay, Score's just going to flash, kills him with Impale. Okay.
Well, that happened.
Fear my sting, I guess. That's exactly what you do.
He just went on the longest and shortest ride ever.
Well, he's suppressed for another 10 seconds.
I'm willing to say he's probably a bit depressed as well. He's going to go topside. Still got the Predator. Trying to push up the wave.
Yeah, and Tal may actually think that he has Impale as well because he didn't see anything go off. Like, who knows what just happened?
Oh, you have to laugh.
Yeah, to keep from being really sad. And this is not how we were expecting this game to go. In fact, it's the opposite. Because the ganks didn't work on the bottom side, but KT just been dominating top side of the map as Wolf. He's on a little bit of a ride, but Marta, he's here as well.
We identified in the draft very early, okay, KT can't have the winning top lane and the winning bot lane. By going for the Xayah first pick, they're saying, we're going to take the strongest possible 2v2. They got the Thresh. But the fact that the Renekton is losing is what SKT is losing out on. Unfortunately, now KT's kind of winning everywhere, and it's the worst case scenario for the red side SKT.
Yeah, it's just, and it's so much winning when you win against a Renekton early as well, because you just know that now, not going to be able to do anything. So
I'm very excited to watch 2-item Conquer Renekton run at 2 armor item Smeb. I'm not sure how much damage he does.
Yeah,
it's going to be more than before, but is going to kill him? No. So I think on a simple level, he doesn't have kill threat, and that's a problem for the Renekton. But again, the data points don't exist. We're getting a data point here, so I hope we do learn something about it, even if it might not be the most successful Conqueror Renekton that we see in the LCK.
Yeah. The thing that's really scary is the fact that Smeb can build almost entirely for lane and not get punished. Faker is not going to do a massive amount of damage to him anyway if he builds enough health. And so Smeb can probably just run back and grab a Thornmail next item if he wants to and still feel okay. And that's a really terrifying prospect.
I wonder if you go IE Rush on the Tristana and hope for a pick, because you do have Jarvan ult into Ruthless Predator into a couple of crits from the Rapid Fire Cannon. Yeah. You can actually very up your build here as Tristana and look for a pick chance for the Tristana rather than going for Shiv, because they have almost no wave control and no map control. The static Shiv Tristana really may not be able to get too much done unless this Rift Herald can actually provide a lot of value for the side of SKT.
Yeah, might need to be the Maha special, as you're talking about. But the Bash brothers, which is what I was trying to say in game number 2, are going to head towards this Ocean Drake. Be able to pick that one up. Smeb and Score were just clearing out the jungle of SKT, and the suffocation has certainly begun in full. $3,500 gold is going to be the lead, and KT just look like they're not letting up.
And SKT need this to be a 60,000 gold game. We've mentioned a couple of times, but it's all about total gold for both teams being high, so they can actually enact what they have, which is zone control for a hyper carry. Renekton may not be a 1v1 killer this game, but he's still a big crocodile that you can't walk past. They still are able to ape what they were able to do in game number 1 and 2. It's just going to be from further behind again. It's once again KT in full control of the map. SKT do have Faker playing the side lane, and
And the Ornn is going to get the double knockups to come in. Wolf takes so much damage as a Cataclysm is going to fly forward. It's decent work on Tomata, but they're going to need the Demon Flare to get a flash, and Faker doesn't have it available. They pull in the Ornn, but now Tile going to get booped back and destroyed before doing anything. Mata even had a hook out. That was a cute one as the double kill. Now for UCAL and KT this time. They turned around the fight in the mid game.
2 for 3 in the end. KT trade up. They're going to get the mid lane turret as well. We already mentioned you need the gold in the game to make these fights work. SKT didn't have them. They can get the mid lane turret, even though Deft plays with our heartstrings a little bit and almost dies to the turret. They back away. KT still trade up. They are stronger in a low gold game. We watched the replay. You understand why the initiation happened. But it's a huge Ornn ultimate onto 2. And Smeb knows their damage output is high. It's an Iceborne Gauntlet onto the Ornn early in the game, and while Faker has a Rod of Ages, this is not the time you truly respect the swing.
Yeah, the Weaver's Wall is going to mean there's no escape at all for anyone. Faker just wanted to get 1 kill back, but Mata, he had himself a timepiece. He's able to go a bit golden and survive through it all.
And we should remind viewers, especially people who are just joining in for the playoffs, UCAL is on the Taliyah. While it's by far not his most picked in the 2018 season, that is his 6-0 Azir.
Yeah.
If you watched his rise towards becoming a pro player when he was 16 in solo queue, it's rank 1 solo queue for a lot of 2017, 70% of his games were Taliyah. This guy was a Taliyah one-trick for the majority of last year. So he comes in, he hits a good seismic shove. We don't even call it out because that's what you expect from the Taliyah from UCAL.
Yeah. Man is exceptional. Okay, SKT playing up towards the top side. Remember, SKT this time have a lot of initiation options. With the Jarvan and with the Rakan especially, Faker can get a good position. There is still a fight that they can win. It's just very, very hard to find it because remember, KT just won themselves a trade with their Skarner being caught out by 4 people.
And now you get a kill when Ruthless Predator hits and you get a couple of lucky crits from the Tristana. That's the only real way they can trade up unless they heavily outnumber KT. Meanwhile, KT are ready for team fights. 2 items onto the Xayah, so much far ahead. It's not even a real term. The English is going, but massively far ahead over the Tristana. The Skarner is finding a lot of value wherever, and it's actually a fun time to mention that Koma actually did an interview with Weekly LCK. It was filmed after the wildcard match earlier in the week. He was asked about the Skarner struggles. Remember, Skarner's been on a huge losing streak in the LCK.
Yeah.
A massive one. It's all about the fact that in scrims, the word is, Skarner goes around, there's less wards, people are a little bit less focused, he just kills people whenever he ults. Hasn't been seen that on stage. KT is so good on the early to mid game, and they have the Thresh to double down on the roam. When you give up the Skarner and the early game to KT, you can't be surprised if there's egg on your face, because this is one team that is super good at making the Skarner work.
Yeah. The thing that I love is that you were talking about that while they were making an incredible strategic play as well, meaning that UCAL just had so much space, that outer turret, there was no way that Faker could get up there because they had all of the control, even showing themselves on vision, because KT were just in the right place at the right time and had minion waves where they needed them as well. Even able to transfer over to this blue buff. It feels like the game of chess once again that we talk about a lot in Telecom Wars. And
this time you don't have the easy out and say, well, the Mountain Drakes got them lucky, because they don't actually have a great Baron team. They don't have a Mountain Drake. They have a great team to turn off Baron. Massive turn with the Ornn ultimate causing pandemonium and the Skarner flashing in for an Impale. KT do need to keep pushing up the map, but it's much harder for them to convert their lead into a Baron and try to actually threaten the base. But now it's just about playmaking, but the massive pace they were able to grow their lead around 22 minutes in game number 2. That's much trickier to pull off in game number 3.
Yeah, and now Smab is verging on unkillable as well. Once he gets to that health threshold of about 3k, which he's not quite at just yet, will mean that he can just go and trade with Tal and then clear out a minion wave almost instantly like Ornn is wont to do.
And tank up a Baron.